coming out and saying we don't have intelligence Russia hacked. We have Clapper, the head of all intelligence, the Attorney General saying it. But still, that's not even on the news, hardly. Might have been mentioned once or twice. All over the place. The Russians, the Russians, the Russians. Meanwhile, in international waters today, the communist Chinese pulled right up, armed, in front of one of our ships and stole a U.S. naval vessel, an underwater drone in front of the whole world, and just basically flipped the United States off. But, you know, that's okay. They just lecture the United States and tell us to, quote, shut down the alt-right. 2 weeks ago, it was in the Wall Street Journal, AP, Reuters. They said, you must shut down the alt-right. This is dangerous. These are bad people. They need to be shut down. And the EU came out last Monday, now I guess 12 days ago, and said you have 24 hours, Facebook, to shut down Infowars.com, DrudgeReport.com, Breitbart.com. Listed by name. They're using a Washington Post list that they had to retract last week. Doesn't matter. We're moving forward. They said by shut it down, block it. And you cannot make this up. Look at this headline. Soros-financed group to decide what websites you can visit. That's the headline. And it is Soros-financed. Snopes, a lady and her cat and her partner. George Soros finances group helping Facebook flag disputed stories. Of course, you can't really dispute CNN, can you, with all their known lying? Here's another one. This is from the Daily Beast. They're just tickled pink by all this because they can't compete with Infowars.com. We're bigger than they are online. So their answer is just, oh, yeah, censor Alex Jones. That's a great idea. It's so liberal. No judge, no jury. Oh, but notice they use a war that all these dingbats just discovered. InfoWar. We were ahead of you 20 years, sweetheart. We saw what you were doing to us. It's an InfoWar with deception. We thought we'd launch our own InfoWar with the flaming sword of truth. Soros finances group helping Facebook flag disputed stories. Well, they use the word bury them. Facebook says bury them. We will bury you. Like the communist Chinese a few weeks ago said, Trump will never help you regain your greatness. You are declining. Oh. But meanwhile, not doing really a Chinese accent or a Russian accent. It's more of a Spectre, you know, bad guy, James Bond villain accent, because that's what Soros is. But meanwhile, U.S. defense official, Chinese warship stole U.S. underwater drone in front of our ships. Just like every few days, they point missile launchers or machine guns. They just pull right up to our ships in the Gulf, Persian Gulf, and just threaten everybody. And Trump says, you aim weapons at us again or try to board us, we're going to fight back. And they're like, oh, how dare you. America is here to roll over. Unless we're financing some jihadis to run around raping and killing women en masse. By the way, coming up, we have caught Megyn Kelly, and this is bigger than InfoWars, in red-handed editing to deceive her victim viewers. The good news is she has some of the lowest ratings on Fox and is trying to move to CNN. That'll be a nice place for her. Talk about how dumb she is. That's a real good move, lady. You keep smoking that New York City BS. We'll be back, Steve. We really caught her red-handed. I'm Alex Jones. It's Friday, the 16th day already, hard to believe, of December 2016. We're going to be live here for the next 4 hours. Everything the globalists do is basically by incrementalism. What they do against the public is, and they've announced Zuckerberg met with the communist Chinese 14 times we know of the last 2 years, admittedly on how to set up the new censorship. They decided to go on the fake news model that the communist Chinese pioneered 20 years ago, starting in 1996 with massive internet controls. Now, you'd think that'd be big news here in the U.S. Communist Chinese model to be used in the United States. In fact, even 4 years ago, Australia tried to pass these laws, but it narrowly failed. And the headlines in the major papers in Australia were Chinese-style net censorship coming to Australia. web IDs, rating systems, internet taxes, you name it. Licensing of journalists. That's now what's being announced here in the United States. And Zuckerberg has come out, already in Europe, they are blocking InfoWars, blocking Drudge Report. Google Chrome is blocking InfoWars or telling you, beware, you're going to a fake, dangerous, hate-filled site. Breitbart, again, is having its apps kicked off Apple. It's being put in the same databases. We've been kicked off of Google Store. And, of course, you could sue them on any of these fronts, but they don't care. They've got government backing. They've got the federal judges, they believe. This is really an unprecedented time. So last week, Paul Watson wrote about the announcement that was in the BBC, the Associated Press, you name it, and, of course, the detractors said more fake news. InfoWars claims it's going to be shut down in 24 hours. No. You go to our articles, and the mainstream articles, it says we're giving all the major internet platforms, service providers, websites, from Facebook to Twitter to Google to YouTube, its subsidiary, 24 hours to announce your plan of how you're going to censor the alt-right, and specifically listed yours truly. Now, that's a huge, sensational development. They admitted they're using a Washington Post list that the Washington Post says they got from an anonymous website. 2 weeks before, it was a female professor. I just point out she is a cat lady, and on her profile wears pink and purple glasses. That is her curriculum vitae. George Soros is now financing the group that is running the flagging and, quote, burying. I mean, look at Breitbart. People say it exaggerates. It's not even hardcore enough. George Soros finances group helping Facebook flag disputed stories. We read to you from Facebook's press release yesterday that Drudge was linked to, that where they said we're going to, quote, bury them, and they showed an image of the woman with her cat. Can we put Paul Watson's article up where it actually shows her in her apartment, and every time they go, this is the woman that will control you, they show her, this fat lady with a cat. No judge, no jury, no nothing, but Snopes has a cat. Well, I've got two, so I trump you. And they put this lady on TV, this far leftist in California with her obese cat. And I'm not against the fact they're obese. The point is, it's just give me a break. And then her weird moonbeam, space cadet husband. And this is the guy. CNN goes, this is who debunks this. No more judges, no more juries, no more nothing. You're just banned because he has a Garfield cat. I'm not even joking. Look at this article out of the Daily Beast. Did Facebook just kickstart the real info war? We have a website waiting. It's being built. We've been a little busy with the election. It was supposed to launch a month ago. It's called newswars.com. It's magazine style, and it deals with the attack on free speech. That's why I put out the petition last week that got 100,000 signatures that we've now printed up. It's in the warehouse next to me. I'm going to shoot a video later today about it. We're going to deliver it next week to Trump Tower. I guess we need to get 1 million signatures, too. But the point is we're organizing a movement of class action litigants and others who've been barred from going to sites, who've had your First Amendment violated, or who have had your website blocked. I'm going to start filing lawsuits to defend the First Amendment. What am I supposed to do? And the media and the David Brock, White House-funded, Soros-funded outfits, Media Matters came out last night and said, oh, look, he's going to sue Facebook. You better believe I am. And I'm going to sue the Washington Post, and I'm going to sue anybody else that violates my First Amendment and says I should be delisted and says that I should be silenced and a frickin' gag stuck in my mouth. If you want to shut me up, you've got to sue me into oblivion. And you've got to prove it. And that doesn't mean Megyn Kelly editing audio tapes of me. See, I could take the Bible, one of the longest books in written history, and the paper-thin pages, and I could take those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words, and I could cut them all out, kind of like those magnets you put on your refrigerator with different words. You can say whatever you want with them. You throw those on the wall, they don't say anything. You can arrange them however you want. They are now going And I see mainstream news articles every day where there'll be 1 word or 2 words or 3 words, and they'll even put them in quotes, but have it all cobbled together where I'm saying the wildest stuff you ever heard in your life. Then NPR and others take that and read it on air, strung together, where it sounds like it's real. Next level deception. Next level. Megyn Kelly has been caught taking a November 4th show before anyone had ever talked about Pizzagate, before I'd ever heard of it. When I first heard about it, the New York Times, the Washington Post were focusing on it, saying, you know, it's this one pizza place, and distracting from the entire tens of thousands of emails of criminal activity, I mean, clear criminal activity by a bunch of Democrats about jobs, money, payoffs, calling the public scum, talking about laundering money. Oh, this is illegal. Screw it. Let's do it. And then a lot of other weird stuff I'll see at the Aleister Crowley event where, you know, there's going to be lots of blood and semen for you to drink. I mean, just whacked out stuff that's incontrovertible. How do you divert from that if you've been caught with $65,000 of hot dogs for the president? That's male prostitutes. Hands down, that's what it's known, code for by the FBI, Urban Dictionary, law enforcement publications. There's definitely code words for female and male prostitutes, and $65,000 in 1 day of succulent hot dogs. Believe me, there's not any hot dogs that cost $65,000 unless they're a gay porn star. So, and that's a lot of them too, folks. I've gone and looked at the numbers. I mean, Obama must have had at this party like 10, 15 male escorts alone. Notice, though, the media won't touch the succulent $65,000 hot dog story. I've been covering succulent hot dogs. I've been covering the children will be ready for you in the hot tub for your entertainment. They're well behaved, but still they're children. And is this really good walnut sauce? Because last time it wasn't that good. Are these really good walnuts? Because I like those on my spaghetti. Walnut is known code word for dark-skinned escorts. Now, maybe some of this is accidental. Maybe it's being confused. Okay, whatever. Not tens of thousands of these things. Let's skip this network break. This is too important. So all of this is going on. All of this is unfolding. They're trying to start a war with Russia. They're trying to bring our republic down while the Chinese seize one of our ships in international waters. And what is the desperate, collapsing, mainstream corporate media doing? Well, they're calling for us to be shut down and censored because they can't compete with us because their credibility's collapsed, the government's credibility's collapsed, and they want to hold on to power. So you're seeing an attempt at a soft coup, which is becoming a hard coup against the First Amendment, against the free press, and everything that goes with it. A federalization of the churches to the 501c3 and the faith-based initiative, total violation of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. But the left doesn't mind because they're taking it over. State-run religion. The Pope says he's for state-run religion in China, meeting with the president of China 2 weeks ago. Unprecedented stuff's going on. And now they're trying to start a war with Russia, having all their pundits from Oberman to Maddow saying we're at war with Russia. We need physical war with Russia. Hillary has a doctrine to attack Russia. The Pentagon has a new doctrine under Obama to hit Russia if they claim under cybersecurity we've had any breaches, no proof needed. All these intelligence agencies are coming out saying Russia didn't hack us. The Attorney General's saying it because there's no proof. They're covering their butts right now. But that doesn't matter, does it? Now there's the headline, Russia-U.S. move past Cold War to unpredictable conflict. So that's what's currently happening, and they're trying to start a war. I'm going to go ahead and go to this break because I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to launch into Megyn Kelly caught in a gargantuan, mega massive lie against her viewers. So I have plenty of time. I'll do that at the bottom of the hour. But this isn't about Alex Jones being attacked. It's about setting up the First Amendment and trying to bring it down. At the same time, trying to say that all press that's anti-war or that wants détente and all media that wants to stop the jihadis with Russia, that we're all supposedly Russian agents. This is all pure garbage. As I said, we're going to go ahead and go to break. And when we come back, I'm going to launch into Some of the other news that's coming up. All right, I'm sorry to the network and the crew. I decided to skip a break. I decided not to skip a break. So that's kind of why we jumbled up that whole ad block. I need to just stop skipping the breaks. It's just I get so obsessed with the material that I get tunnel vision. And I'm almost like panicking on air because I don't want to stop resisting because the criminality is so naked, so ridiculous, so over the top. And the globalists write all these white papers admitting their horrible plans for us. And I'm like running around trying to tell a bunch of people who are in a trance to wake up. And people are starting to wake up just on their own, but also because a lot of good people are out there ringing alarm bells. But a lot of people still are in a trance or are politically asleep. We call them sheeple. But just look at these headlines. Facebook empowers far-left group to bury fake news. That's an InfoWars.com article up on Drudge. Here's a Daily Beast article. Did Facebook just kickstart a real info war? The fake news hunt, and then they deputize a bunch of known Soros leftists to control the web. What did Soros say in the DC leaks and the WikiLeaks? Remember the headlines? Soros wants UN under new system to shut down alt-right news and to promote news sponsored by Soros. The guy wants control of the media. He wants to be able to silence folks. And so now they're just doing it even though they couldn't defeat Trump. The scandal is they're trying to hijack the press and have not just a coup over the electors, but a coup over the free press. This is outrageous, but I warned everybody for years when we hit the media collapse point of the mainstream media that they would line up for censorship because they want to keep their jobs. And they think if they shut down dissenting voices, somehow that will resurrect them. No, it won't. It'll make people hate you more and work harder to get alternative news and start their own local news organizations that you're not going to be able to bypass. That's why we've tested putting out magazines. That's why we tested putting out information via email. Just like in the old Soviet Union, they craved alternative information. You guys are not studying history. You're fools. And it's not going to work. But I'll tell you this. You need to really focus on what you're watching lest you be deceived. I'm going to break this down in the next segment, but my mother called me last night and said, "Did you really say Hillary chops up children and rapes them in the bottom of that pizza place?" And I said, "No, Mom." She goes, "Yeah, I know your dad told me a few weeks ago that you were predicting all this and that there was larger stuff with Podesta and they were doing a Karl Rove was her term. You know how there'll be a big story you want to bury, so you put a piece of disinfo in the middle of it. And that they were editing tapes of you and then airing them." And I said, "Yeah, that's it." She said, "Okay." And I said, "But let me find it." It took me about 30 minutes looking really, really hard to be able to find it on Right Wing Watch because I had to find the date. Because it was like NPR had headlines and all these other newspapers saying Alex Jones says in the bottom of a pizzeria, Hillary's chopping up kids and he's the one that created the story and all this other stuff. So I finally found it. So I didn't even know what date it was from Right Wing Watch, and it said November 4th. And it wasn't even about Pizzagate. That wasn't even popularized. I never heard that term then. I didn't hear it for weeks later till CNN and others and the Newsweek and Time Magazine and the Washington Post and the New York Times all focused and made the whole story just about the pizza place. And there it was. I had remembered the quote at saying about Syria. And sure enough, there was the full quote about Syria. And then I went and looked at the Megyn Kelly piece. I finally found it about an hour after she'd gone off air. And sure enough, they said source Right Wing Watch. So they knew they'd cut the end off where I said she's responsible for killing kids in Syria. And they'd made it look like I was saying it was at this pizza place. Then they go to the guy, David Brock's boyfriend, Media Matters boyfriend. You can't make this up. You see the setup now. I don't even know if he knows what's going on. And it's like, she's like, "Oh my God, Alex Jones is going to get you killed." Man, you got to really... And then I noticed Nancy Pelosi's daughter's all over the news going, Alex Jones that sent gunmen to Pizzagate, he wants me dead. He's sending, basically, killers after me. That's in The Nation, Mother Jones, you name it. She was on Fox News 2 days ago saying it, that I'm going to get her killed, so's Cavuto. So they'll just connect anything. If I say, I don't want higher taxes, they're going to say, he wants to kill us, Pizzagate. And then they just flash it out there. But if you're watching, they got an edited tape, edited video, you think like, wow, he says she's raping and killing kids at a pizza place. What a demon. I mean, this is a pack of liars, man. You have really got to hand it to them. They are preying on their viewers. Woo! All right, I am going to show you premeditated deception and fraud against the viewers of Fox News by Megyn Kelly, who the establishment has worshipped, who the mainstream media has lauded as a goddess. I thought she was somewhat attractive 5 years ago. She looks like an anorexic elf. She looks like a little boy wearing a blonde wig and is extremely unattractive. And she's now just seething on a power trip because the New York establishment pats her on the head like she's a poodle. But that's not why I'm criticizing her. Her ratings are plunging. She has some of the lowest ratings on Fox. She reportedly is trying to move to CNN. Talk about stupid. Talk about bad judgment. So I'm going to get to all that in a moment and just show you premeditated lying. And we have the proof that she and her producers know what she's doing. And you can tell in the piece, she keeps just bringing it up, separate from a teleprompter. Alex Jones is going to get you killed. Alex Jones is going to kill people. And Pelosi's daughter, I'm going to get her killed. I'm going to kill. I'm going to kill. The word came down today from the current Justice Department. Loretta Lynch is refusing to open up a prosecution against me. No one's ever done anything like this against the First Amendment. I was really hoping they'd do it. And I'm not just saying that. When I talked to my high-level sources, and I've got a lot of them, they said, you're not scared? And I said, this is incredible. I'm going to be like one of the most famous people ever for the First Amendment. This is fabulous news. Witch trials, Salem witch trials in Congress, federal lawsuits claiming I'm calling for insurrection when they're all over the news in Time Magazine, Newsweek, Washington Post, New York Times, saying kill Donald Trump. And I'm saying we need to not be violent. Even if the government becomes violent, we should hold back as much as possible, like Gandhi did, because it'll blow up in their face, or Martin Luther King did. But most of the government's on our side. The globalists are going to try to start a war to get us back under tyranny. The answer is peace. Soros has doubled the money to Black Lives Matter to riot and kill. The answer is don't riot, don't kill. Good luck saying that. They have new articles out saying, I want to kill police. Everyone sees through this that's got half a brain. Megyn Kelly in her little bubble in New York thinks having Rupert Murdoch, who was hanging out at the White House yesterday and talks about how much he loves Hillary and how he wishes Hillary would have won. I mean, the Fox News is gone, folks. It's over. All that's left is Hannity and Tucker Carlson. Now, before I go any further, let me just remind everybody, today is the last day to order products at InfoWarsStore.com and to guarantee you get them anywhere in the United States, Hawaii, Alaska, and also our protectorates like Puerto Rico and Guam. Monday is the last day to get it anywhere in the continental United States before Christmas. That means by Friday or Saturday. But if you order today, you'll probably get it on like Wednesday or Thursday. Time to still, wrap it up, put it under the tree. You owe yourself oxy powder that flushes out with oxygen, high-level oxygen that releases as it goes through the upper and lower intestines. Incredible. John Wayne died with 20-something pounds of meat in his guts. This just blasted all out, folks. It's amazing. Rob Dew lost 12 pounds in 1 week, and he's in great shape. Had a scholarship in basketball, coaches basketball, plays basketball. The guy is muscular, in great shape, except a little bit of a pot belly. That's your intestines full of rotting garbage. That's how you get diverticulitis. You take this twice a year or so, 6, 7 pills at night, you go through the detox, you're talking about the biggest flush ever, not some chemical flush, not an herbal flush that can be painful. I've done one of those before. This is unbelievable. Oxy powder is perfect in the new year. Free shipping on Oxy powder. We've got products discounted across the board. 50% off on colloidal silver. And Anthony Gucciardi, that kind of oversees this with Weldon Henson, was in there during the break, and he said, listen, we are selling out. DNA Force is gone. Brain Force is about to sell out. Colloidal silver is about to sell out. Oxy powder is about to sell out. He said, good thing we're ending these specials. I'm going to run them through the weekend, but again, the guaranteed shipping anywhere in the U.S. or our protectorates ends today. But I'm going to continue the sale through the weekend. Living Defense, 30% off. Silver Bullet, 50% off. That's $9.95. You can't beat that. Brain Force Plus, 33%. Winter Sun, Vitamin D3, 25% off. DNA Force, well, that's sold out. Survival Shield X2, 30% off. BioTrue Selenium, 30% off. And a bunch of other stuff is massively discounted. InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Anthroplex, Super Male Vitality, Knockout Sleep Aid, Liver Cleanse that is great to take with the Oxy powder. Bone and joint support, incredible formula. Doesn't have a fancy name, but it's amazing. Prostagard. We are under attack. We need your financial support. But these are great game-changing products, and they're also discounted right now, so it's a win-win-win on every point of the compass. So I want to thank you for your support. But we are the test case. We're the big lead elephant. If they can take us out, folks, they can take out Drudge and Breitbart and everybody else. Just like we tried to take out Limbaugh 5-6 years ago with the big boycotts and the rest of it, using all their mainstream media power to take him out. It failed. Even though I'm direct competition with Limbaugh, I supported him, and we bought over $250,000 of advertising with him because it made business sense. The advertising was cheaper then. We got a good response. We promoted my films on there, got a true libertarian constitutional message to his audience. The point is, they've moved on from Limbaugh. If anything, we've changed the way Limbaugh operates and made it safer for Sean Hannity and the Limbaughs of the world to be more radical and really expose the New World Order and globalism. You're the audience that paved the way for the UKIP movements and for the other sovereignty movements across the globe. Don't underestimate the unprecedented historical influence of you, the info warriors, you, the Americana, of every color, of every creed. We're all the same species. We're human beings with red blood who have a dream of liberty beating in our breast and a desire to control our own destiny. And we're just a focal point. I'm a small part of InfoWars. I'm the founder of it, but I'm just a small part of it. You are the InfoWar. And they want to silence you. They're afraid of you. But you defeated them with the election of Trump. Don't let them take that away from you. You overrode all their lies and their frauds and their election fraud. It all blew up in their face. So when you support us and our local AM and FM stations, when you spread the word, when you send out a video link or an article, when you sign a petition in InfoWars, you're having a big effect. When you call into talk radio, when you publish your own little local newsletter, or when you write a letter to the editor, when you go to a rally, when you speak up, when you purchase products from InfoWarsStore.com, you are funding the entire spearhead, not just the tip of the spear. So I want to encourage you all to take advantage of this Christmas special in the last day where the shipping is guaranteed anywhere in the United States, including Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, Puerto Rico, you name it. And you can order right through the weekend and still get it anywhere in the lower 48. In fact, they claim you still get it in Alaska and other places on Monday, but I'm just saying today's the last day, because last year it was the 16th or 17th were the last day, so I'm just saying that now just to be safe. So to be safe, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. Whether it's a limited edition Hillary for President 2017 Deport George Soros shirt, whatever the case is, whatever you're looking for, it's there. So thank you for defending free speech. And the key way to do it is keep spreading it and funding it. So thank you. Now, let's get into the attack on the First Amendment. Let's get into the heart of the vicious assault on free speech here, but also in Europe. Communist Chinese net censorship is officially coming to the U.S. The Communist Chinese are so arrogant, they've been in the Wall Street Journal and other newspapers in the last several weeks saying, you must shut down the alt-right. You must get a hold of your fake news. That's what Communist China called it 20 years ago when they kicked off massive censorship in China. That's what they call it today. You'll see headlines, China executes executive for fake news, criticizing some government-controlled stock. In China, they would execute Donald Trump for criticizing Boeing. This is the control, and now China lectures Hollywood and is buying up Hollywood. This is the multinational globalist takeover with the foreign communist Chinese and the Pope and the Saudi Arabians telling us we can't have Donald Trump as president. Well, now they've failed, so they're panicking, and several Saudi Arabian princes, if you look at it, own a controlling interest together in News Corp now. So that's why Megyn Kelly is so anti-Trump, so anti-America, and more won't criticize Orthodox radical Islam. And Megyn Kelly has announced that she's trying to move to CNN. Her ratings are plunging. The Harpy has shot her wad against the American people. Like a little boy in drag. But I'm not going to get into how she looks. I'm going to get into what she's done with the backdrop of, did Facebook just kickstart the real InfoWar? That's the Daily Beast admitting they're hiring Soros finance group, helping flag disputed stories to be, quote, buried by Facebook. Facebook empowers far-left group to bury fake news. That's up on drudgereport.com, that article. Now, let's get into just a small portion of what she did. Now, I told you, you've already heard about this. NPR 3 weeks ago started taking this tape from November 4th, not even about Pizzagate. That term wasn't out there yet. And I was talking about, I don't know about all this devil worship and the Podesta emails and all this craziness. And he does go to Aleister Crowley meetings. I mean, that's admitted. Now, that's even been in the New York Times. They say it's no big deal. Drinking blood and all this stuff. Okay, whatever, we should investigate it. And they take that and focus it onto a pizza place. And then NPR and others will only air the first part of the clip. Well, now Kelly takes it directly from Right Wing Watch. It's on the screen. If you're a TV viewer, radio listeners can go and see it for themselves at Right Wing Watch. And they leave the part on where I say she's personally, through the jihadis that she empowered, killed and tortured and raped children, because jihadis have done it by the hundreds of thousands. They don't play that on Fox News and then come on and say, I'm going to get people killed. To the point that my mother took it when she called me saying, are you saying that she rapes and kills kids and chops them up in a pizza place? And I said, no, Mom, I'm going to send you the clip. I sent it to her, and 30 minutes later, she texted back and said, you ought to sue Fox News and Megyn Kelly. I'm never watching it again. And she is pissed. And it's hard to get my mom angry. When she does, look out. My dad's tickled her once, and she knocked him out. The crash and blow of a big right hand almost sent that Texas man to the promised land. Now, this is what's going on. This woman thinks you're an idiot. But, again, it's next-level deception. Let's go ahead and go to clips. The full video's up on Infowars.com. It's a 9-minute, 18-minute segment. In case they're blaming, saying we're editing. No, we're just excising the pieces. Where they intro it, they talk about me, they cut the clip off where I explain I'm talking about Syria. It's a twist. And then they go into how much I'm going to cause people to be killed or people like me. And then they go on to say, ban the First Amendment. Here it is.
And how this whole thing got started. Trace?
Megyn, as many controversies do these days, it began with a tweet. On October 30th, days after the FBI announced they'd be reopening an investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, someone on Twitter, whose name remains unverified but has several thousand followers, posted that new emails found on Anthony Weiner's computer confirmed that Hillary Clinton was involved in a pedophilia ring. The Twitter post included information from a Facebook user who stated, quote, My NYPD source said it's much more vile and serious than classified material on Weiner's device. We're talking an international child enslavement and sex ring. The next day, the bogus claim was picked up by a website called yournewswire.com, message boards like 4chan and Reddit, right-wing blogs, and several pro-Trump websites. INFOWAR's Alex Jones, a far-right web host, posted a YouTube video seen almost 500,000 times.
When I think about all the children Hillary Clinton has personally murdered and chopped up and raped, I have zero fear standing up against her.
The rumor spread, inspiring some newfound internet sleuths to start digging around in John Podesta's hacked emails, searching for proof and location of the so-called sex ring. What they found were numerous references to pizza.
All right, pause. Back this up about 2 seconds for me, because, again, for radio listeners, now we're going to play the real clip from Right Wing Watch. Now, Fox News says their source is Right Wing Watch, so they went, they got it, they didn't get it off YouTube, they got the full clip, they cut the front off, knowing I was actually saying, I don't know about the Satanism before the term Pizzagate was out there, but I do know she's funded the radicals. I came, I saw, they died, who do rape and kill and cut up kids, so she personally is responsible for this, because that's how it works in international and national law. If you knowingly order people to go murder or torture somebody, you are found to be an accessory of murder one, and it's considered as if you are the person actually doing it in law, just as much as the person that does the hacking or the raping. But see, she thinks you're stupid. Let's go to the actual clip. Now, there's a twist to that. Am I talking about the devil worship story with her chief of staff, her campaign chairman, looking at the menu of blood and semen and body parts at the Aleister Crowley event, the private event? Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I mean 200,000 plus dead Christians with her operation with Syria and her operation in Libya, and not letting the Christians get out, and directing Al-Qaeda and ISIS, who target and murder children and put them through sex slavery and throw Catholic priests off cliffs and kill people in mass and murder gays and everything else you can imagine, because they don't like peaceful people. And they con everybody that they're for open society and they love everybody. Anything they do is for degradation. Now, that's the video itself. Again, we have the Right Wing Watch clip as well that they say they got it from, that extends out and plays the entire clip as well. So this is what they do. This is how they deceive. So I want to take this live segment, going back like 6-7 minutes ago when I started really getting into this, and I want to add to it the spirit cooking, shots of their high priestess admitting, no, this is real ritual, his emails, the emails about the $65,000 in succulent hot dogs being delivered, all the other real stuff that they want to divert off to from New York to this D.C. pizza place and David Brock's boyfriend of Media Matters. Not going to work. But this is what they think about you as their viewers, and we're going to show the Al-Qaeda and ISIS people murdering folks and throwing them off cliffs. We're going to add videos to all of this and articles backing up what I said and showing you that they don't want you to know about the Saudi Arabian jihad army running around murdering and killing when Hillary launched this whole operation as Secretary of State. And the Pentagon saying she's to blame for hundreds of thousands dead. And Trump saying she's the founder of ISIS. We're going to show all that, but Saudi Arabia, that owns News Corp now and is basically buying up the rest of it from Rupert Murdoch, is the word, they don't want you to know what their army's doing. They want to shut you up and sit around knowing the American people are their slaves. Kind of like the Saudi Arabian princes that got caught driving 100 miles an hour around neighborhoods in L.A. and Beverly Hills. When they got out to the police, they said, I am a prince. Bow to me. I am above the law. Listen, you're not in North Korea or Saudi Arabia, Jack. So you can have your little tart, Megan, sit up there and read off a teleprompter and lie to her audience. But my mother will never watch Fox News again and now hates Megyn Kelly with a passion. You're playing a numbers game, though. Oh, you've got a couple million viewers. Okay, that's one of the smaller shows on Fox. The other shows and other channels have a couple 100,000. So you're a big fish in a small pond, sweetie. And you're there in New York, and the old dinosaurs, the old bosses, still people above 65 or 70 don't know there's an internet. And they still think that it's only you. But in the rest of the whole world, and the whole system, people know who you are, and they know what you're up to, and they know what you're doing, and they know you're a liar. The internet hates you. Everybody from about age 12 up to about 65 cannot stand you and loves you. The whole world basically hates you. Any thinking people don't like you. And by the way, I want to be clear. There are a lot of people above 65 that are on the internet that are smarter than I am. But there is that certain group of people above 65, we all know them, that are basically in a trance and watch TV all day long. I have family that are some of the smartest people I know, literary-wise, history-wise, who for whatever reason have kind of got caught like a moth around a light bulb, just running into the TV all day, and they just watch 6, 7, 8 hours of TV a day, and they think that's the media. And they're lethargic, and they're just kind of in their own world. So, yes, Fox News has a bunch of lethargic people. You know, I've been on Fox News probably 20 times until they blackballed me a few years ago when I refused to go work for them. I refused to go do pilots with them. They just were like, excuse me, you don't want to be on Fox News? No. Really, we're going to pay. I want first-class tickets. Then, oh, no, we don't do first-class tickets for people, even our top hosts. Well, I'm not coming then. I want a $500 a night hotel, and I want first-class ticket. And it wasn't that I demanded that as a writer, like, rock stars, Ozzy Osbourne wanting all green M&Ms or something. I just knew they wouldn't do it. And I said, hey, they came back a day later. Okay, we'll give you first class. I said, nope, don't want it. Bye. And they used to call me to come on, and they send a car to get you to make sure you make it there. And I was like, no, I don't want to come on. And they just can't believe it. Because I already knew then that I had 3, 4, 5 million viewers and listeners a day. Now it's more than that. I don't need to come on and bow down with some weird narcissist in a suit or some woman in a prostitute outfit with the lights and the makeup and everyone getting off that they're in New York and they're in a big studio and just make-believing that they're all arriving and petting their briefcases and purses and everyone just, oh, we've arrived, and just power tripping around. I want to go outside and look at the stars. I want to run out, on the park behind my house with my shoes off at night under a full moon. I want to rampage around in a Jeep with the front window out with a semi-automatic rifle, blasting targets. I want to just enjoy myself and be around other normal, decent people. I'm fulfilled. I don't need mainstream media. I don't need Fox News. I don't need Hollywood. Hollywood now offers me all these big movie roles. No, I'm not interested. You don't want a major role in a major $50 million budget movie. No, I don't want it. Well, come on. And I say, let me guess, I got to come out there for what, 2, 3 months? And I got to miss a bunch of my shows? No, I don't want to do it. Really, you don't want to be in a major movie with major stars? Nope, don't want to. You'll change your mind when you see the contract. I don't care about $300,000. Wipe my rear end with that. I care about restoring the republic. I care about winning, not just this generation, but the next generation and the next, and the species succeeding. I have a total race consciousness will to not have the species fall to technocracy. We're in a death battle for our very spirit. You should all feel completely claustrophobic under the New World Order. I want it off of me. I want its spirit defeated, vanquished, and banished to the ninth circle of Hades. I want it out of our dimension. That's heavy stuff. Yeah, we're on a planet with only about 1.5 miles of floating rock on top of semi-liquid magma that's 3,000 degrees. And then you go deeper, it's a red-hot ball, basically as hot as the sun, spinning, made of liquid nickel. And we're orbiting a gigantic flame ball with huge ongoing thermonuclear explosions every millisecond, with trillions of galaxies around us and interdimensional systems and everything. I don't care about some tart in high heels stumbling around, okay? And when you transcend them, it's game over. When you don't care about them anymore, it's game over. Only thing to wealth is good transportation and better medicine and education. There's nothing else good about it. And I only say that because Wall Street and Madison Avenue makes you feel inadequate because you're not rich. It's all bull. None of it means anything. Cultural richness is what's important, and they're stealing that from us. We'll be right back. But hey, Megyn Kelly blew it. Totally exposed. She thinks you're an idiot.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit.
You say what you want about Trump. The globalists are in full panic mode because they know he wants prosperity, and they don't want that. I was reading where Obama's going to have this $4 million vacation house and another multi-million-dollar condo. And that's fine if he earned it, if it's money he actually generated and made. But then he criticizes anybody in Africa that has a car or air conditioning and says they can't have it. And then meanwhile, Rupert Murdoch takes his wife, Jerry Hall, to visit Obama and Michelle at the White House 3 weeks after he schmoozed with Donald Trump and Ivanka at Trump Tower. Now let's show the photo. Rupert Murdoch is a true piece of work. And he has gone completely and totally over the side for the globalists. Look at George Washington behind him in that photo. The total opposite of those four humans. The complete difference. Look at little narcissistic dumbasses they look like compared to Washington. That's Washington. That painting was shortly before Washington died. It's not what George Washington really even looked like, but it's just a completely separate group of people. Honor versus dishonor. Conscious, focused, purpose-driven life and will versus little narcissistic harpies. If you just joined us, I think it's pretty devastating that they took out of context a clip where I was saying, I don't know about all this devil worship stuff, but I know Hillary is responsible for these big wars, and she personally, under law, is responsible for the rape and murder and chopping up of children, backing the rebels and launching the operations in Libya and Syria. And they cut off the back where I say that seconds later. To then sit there and say that I'm going to cost people's lives during the larger report with David Brock's boyfriend. How do you come up with this? How is it David Brock's boyfriend or a former boyfriend of Media Matters that's out to get the free press and out to get us and admits that memos? They want to, quote, infiltrate and take down the alternative media. And then in the emails, this pizza place is listed out of thousands of emails, so everybody goes and diverts onto that. It's so obvious. But since they want to open this up, I'll just get into Penn State and the Catholic Church and the pedophile rings and the callboy rings in D.C. and Barney Frank. And I guess I should maybe make a documentary about this. Maybe that's the answer, because they really are scared of it. And they do want to use this to try to censor the First Amendment. So I guess I better, in the new year, go ahead and get on down to D.C. and New York and do some poking around, huh? Yeah. They're going to edit tapes and say that I'm trying to get people to go kill folks at that pizza place, which people should leave alone. There's probably nothing going on there. That's why the media focused on it, because there's nothing going on there. Diverting us. It's a Karl Rove trick. Dan Rather's got all these documents about Bush, and you just insert a fake one in there. And that's why day one I told my crew, long before people were saying, you're covering up Pizzagate, while I'm supposedly the father of it, I've just been trying to clarify this thing. And I told my reporters, I said, you're all covering it, and it does look bad. And I said, why'd the media pick this out of all this bombshell stuff? They didn't pick the $65,000 in hot dogs, the succulent, delicious, oh, I can't wait to get some of those hot dogs. They're so good. Are these really as good as you say? Because the last hot dogs weren't that good. Are these male prostitutes really as good as you're saying? And that's what they're saying. 10-year-old could read that and know it. What do you do when you got something like that? Well, you have the New York Times come out and say, off one Reddit person and one tweet out of thousands going on, oh, look, it's this pizza place. And then everybody takes the bait, runs to the pizza plate. We're forced to cover it. And then they set us up. But see, we got hindsight now, so we know exactly what you did, and we've caught you. We know what you're trying to distract us from, like a mama bird acting like its wings broken. I've got some very exciting news from my federal sources. I've got quite a few of them. And they say Loretta Lynch is a rat leaving a sinking ship. She's refusing to do anything Obama or Hillary tells her to try to upset the election. She's come out, obviously, and said that Russia didn't hack us. And she is refusing to try to establish some federal lawsuit against yours truly to try to restrict my free speech. Now, people find that hard to believe. Last year, she came out and said, yes, we've got to do something to shut down hate speech in America and restrict free speech under the Strong Cities UN initiative. There was a firestorm. Congress said they were going to haul her in front of Congress, and she backed off. So Lynch is counting down the days. 34 days from now, we will have president-elect. Now, coming up in the next hour, Obama is set at 2:15 Eastern, 1:15 Central, to give a press conference about Russia. They've been escalating the number of troops going to the Polish-Russian border. They've been escalating the number of troops in some of the other border countries with Russia, former satellites of Russia, former Soviet Union. And they are openly saying that there may be military action. That's the new doctrine of Obama and Hillary, is that if you hit us with a cyber attack from your continental area, from your landmass, we may hit you militarily. And so there's a lot of surprises they may engage in before. They're also talking about a proxy war breaking out between our troops and the Russian troops that are in Syria. And it keeps coming out that Obama is aiding the al-Qaeda and ISIS rebels. And our own troops are the ones obviously blowing the whistle on that. General Flynn first exposed that 3 years ago. Obama ordered him to step down. But that is a fact. It's come out in congressional hearings. So the incredible crimes of these people are in front of everybody's face now. But what about the big announcement of Facebook officially saying they're going to have a George Soros-run group? This is what was in the WikiLeaks from 3 years ago, that he wanted to have an international group controlled by the UN with his people at the head of it, censoring news and information, just like Europe's already doing. Well, that's now official. Soros Group, Snopes, and other universities he funds to run it. Soros Finance Group helping Facebook flag disputed stories, Breitbart.com, on DrudgeReport.com. Also on DrudgeReport.com and INFOWARS.com article. Facebook empowers far-left group to bury fake news. It's official. Now, here is a Daily Beast article. Did Facebook just kickstart the real info war? Again, notice they're all adopting our nomenclature, because our nomenclature is the proper nomenclature, not globalist, disinfo, political correct vomit, gobbledygook to confuse everybody and to break down society, but key language to actually accurately define what's happening. In an effort to combat the spread of fake information, the social media giant is stifling international fake news. Now, notice. Everything they're saying is the opposite. They want to stifle their competition. They want to stifle the truth. In an effort to combat the spread of fake information, the social media giant is stifling intentional fake news. Well, like the New York Times running a story that Alec Baldwin was dead at 58 on Monday, where the bot from Google News put the fake news clickbait up. I'm going to have to get rid of the clickbait, even though it's some of the advertising we have to fund things, because it keeps popping fake news up like Donald Trump says he hates America. And then you go click on it, it's got fake news articles with cutouts with Amy Schumer going, look at this monster. He says he thinks conservatives are dumb and hates them. And then I got to sit there every day. This stuff pops up that I don't control with the third-party advertising. They're the fakes, not us. Oh, but CNN, the New York Times, they won't get in trouble for yellow cake lies and WMD lies and Obamacare lies, saying it was free and saying Hillary would win hands down with a 97% chance with fake polls. No, none of them get shut down. It's us. And Snopes decides. A lady and her cat. So in an effort to combat the spread of fake information, the social media giant is stifling intentional fake news writers while sparking a fight with people who view such a move as censorship. You view prior restraint is censorship? No, that's what it is by the very definition. And again, I'm so sick of the denial. Last Monday, the EU came out in the biggest move ever, other than Communist China's censorship, and said, we order Facebook, Google, Twitter, and hundreds of other major platforms to censor the alt-right. And they regurgitated the list the Washington Post put out and then had to retract a few days later, saying we're Russian agents and this is all fake news. Do you understand the lawsuit you're going to be in when you've got such a bad record of telling the truth, mainstream media, and you're going to have us censored, and then I'm going to have a jury in the lawsuit, and my lawyers are going to put on all the lies you've told, the WikiLeaks emails where you're premeditatedly saying we're going to lie to the public and deceive the public and keep them in the dark and keep them desperate, all this creepy criminal speak that's undeniable. And then we're going to sit here when you say our pizza story is fake and then it's not our story and you've edited tapes of me talking about other stuff. You're going to lose the judgments. But more importantly, you're going to be certified as liars and enemies of the free press. You have totally jumped the shark. You are crazy. Your evil is only surpassed by your hubris, by your chutzpah, by your bravado. You are delusional. I don't care how big your studios are, Megyn Kelly. I have a bigger audience of people, and I have the smart people, not the idiots that still believe you. I already knew about the clip they were using in editing. I'd already warned my parents, but my mother still was shocked by it. And when she heard the actual clip that I sent her 30 minutes later, I dug it up, she got pissed. And so did everybody else. So I'm going to play the clip one more time. They first talk about fake news, get people killed, and then they say, and then Trump supporters are going after Trump. Like Alex Jones said this, not telling you that I had just done a rant before we went to break about how she's a mass murderer, a criminal, funding all these wars. I saw he died. I'd played a promo video of her bloodthirsty and evil statements. I'd had a victim on that day that she had basically bullied, who'd been raped brutally. I was exposing what a predator Hillary is and talking about Bill and the Lolita Express and the pedophilia. And then I came back and I said, yeah, she personally chopped him up and murdered him because under law, if you order something and know what you're doing and start a war, you then are responsible as if you did it personally. I'm a mafia capo and I order somebody to go kill somebody. I'm even more guilty because I organize it and I'm the boss, as if I physically did it. That's under law. And I explained all that in the long 10-minute, 15-minute piece that was November 4th. We're pulling it up now. I'm going to post the whole thing. But here's a few minutes of it. First her with the edited version, then the unedited, what I really said, and then her coming back and saying people like Alex Jones are going to get folks killed. Same thing Pelosi's daughter's saying in The Nation and all over the news. She's saying, Alex Jones sent people to kill me. I'm scared. He said I'm trying to overthrow the election. He's a liar. Pizzagate, Pizzagate. He sent people to kill people. They're now tying the election and the electors that they're trying to get to switch, who they admit are getting death threats and harassed. They flip it around in the news, in The Nation, that I'm threatening the electors with zero proof. So you keep lying. Let's go ahead and play the tape.
Several pro-Trump websites. INFOWAR's Alex Jones, a far-right web host, posted a YouTube video seen almost 500,000 times.
When I think about all the children Hillary Clinton has personally murdered and chopped up and raped, I have zero fear standing up against her.
The rumor spread, inspiring some newfound internet sleuths to start digging around in John Podesta's hacked emails, searching for proof and location of the so-called sex
So they're
ring.
implying I started it.
What they found were numerous references to pizza.
Now, there's a twist to that. Am I talking about the devil worship story with her chief of staff, her campaign chairman, looking at the menu of blood and semen and body parts at the Aleister Crowley event, the private event? Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I mean 200,000 plus dead Christians with her operation with Syria and our operation in Libya and not letting the Christians get out and directing al-Qaeda and ISIS who target and murder children and put them through sex slavery and throw Catholic priests off cliffs and kill people en masse and murder gays and everything else you can imagine because they don't like peaceful people. And they con everybody that they're for open society and they love everybody. Anything they do is for degradation.
And someone could have been killed inside of your restaurant for no good reason other than people like Alex Jones fanned a conspiracy theory that even the D.C. police say has no basis in fact.
Yes, it's a pack of lies, and it's dangerous.
It's a pack of lies. Look, I don't know who this guy is. I'm going to reserve comment on David Brock's boyfriend, but listen.
With an assault rifle and enter a family.
This is what they're doing. That clip is before I'd ever heard the word Pizzagate, talking about the Podesta emails and the Aleister Crowley garbage with him at events where they say we've got plenty of semen and blood for you to drink. This is mainstream news. They then turned that quote about Syria into Pizzagate. All right, I have masses of news to go over, but, I mean, just quite frankly, I'm not gonzo journalism, as I've said 1,000 times. I do most of the time. There are articles every day, even going back 10 years ago, attacking us, and they're just boring. He believes in Bigfoot and flying saucers and hates black people and Jews and is a bad person. There's no point in covering those articles. It's the same thing over and over again. But now because that doesn't work, he's a Russian agent. I mean, there are mainstream headlines saying, is Jones an actual agent or just a dupe of Putin? No, I just don't want to go to war with Russia, and Russia's not doing anything to us, and China's all over us. I mean, I keep explaining. Chinese communists are running over us globally. 98% of rare earth minerals that are used in all the silicon, all the electronics, everything, are controlled by them. Is that a strategic problem? There was a global deal in '79 to hand over our infrastructure to them. The globalists sold us out in a long-term economic system to conquer us, but China wasn't supposed to, in the balance of power, ever leave its sphere of influence or dispute the South China Sea or Taiwan. By the 90s, they went back on that when Clinton was in office because they totally bought off the president and Hillary at the same time. Hillary and Bill are beholden to a lot of different foreign countries. That came out in the foundation, but it came out in the 90s. But the Chinese are who really hold the deed to the Clintons. And now the balance of power has gotten completely whacked out of shape. And that's why the first thing the Chinese did with Bush, remember, was to ground that aircraft and steal all the secret data off the AWAC. Well, now they're back at it. U.S. defense official, Chinese warship stole U.S. underwater drone. In international waters, South China Sea, pulls right up. They say, stop it, don't do it. The Chinese ignore them, steal the submarine, and then run off with it, an act of war. Because they're claiming, because they've built these sandcastles, they're claiming that they're allowed to do it. We've got a clip breaking this down, but I got to tell you, we ought to pull up the old unintentional comedy when they're flying over the island. Because people make fun of Mrs. Trump's accent. I think that's fine. You can make fun of Texas accents. I make fun of good old boys. I can, how you doing there, boy? Oh, I eat rabbits. It's fun to make fun of people's accents. But, man, it sounds like a cartoon when they're flying over the Chinese base. He's like, you go now. You know, nice. Oh, what you doing? No. Oh, me. I mean, it is hilarious. We ought to cue that back up. This time, they just ignore them completely. You American, you go now. You get. Here's the latest audio.
Well, China trying to mark its territory in the disputed islands of the South China Sea, there's new satellite imagery that shows weapons systems have been installed on all 7 of the islands built in those contested waters, apparently to guard against incoming cruise missiles. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs will not acknowledge the specifics, but says the disputed islands are in China's territory and any construction is, quote, normal.
And they've got like 1,000-year-old maps showing they had those. Yeah. And then you lost them. It doesn't matter. The point is it's one of the most, in fact, it's not one of the most, it's the busiest shipping thoroughfare in the world. It's just incredible. And they're building missile launching bases in the middle of it, and even threatening nearby countries like the Philippines and saying, maybe the Philippines belongs to China. Yeah, why not? The Japanese took it in World War II. And thanks to Bill Clinton, they have the missile secrets to hit the United States now anywhere they want with multiple reentry devices, MIRV technology. The Chinese missiles, half the time can't even get off the ground until 1990s, and the Clintons helped them perfect it. Here's some of that audio.
Calling U.S. military aircraft. Please identify yourself. I am a United States military aircraft conducting lawful military activities outside national or international law.
This is the Chinese Navy. This is the Chinese Navy. This is the Chinese sky.
It's really funny towards the end. He goes, you go now.
Foreign military airplane, you are approaching my military security air. Please go away quickly in order to run judgment.
Station calling U.S. military aircraft. Please identify yourself.
Okay, in order to run judgment. With me?
It gets really funny later.
Please identify yourself.
You bad area, go!
This is the Chinese Navy. This is the Chinese Navy. This
like
is
John Belushi, he does the samurai guy, hacking up the phone books. We'll be back with Roger Stone with breaking news. Stay with us. The Daily Beast says that Facebook just kickstarted InfoWar in their plans to shut down the alt-right. Isn't that just special? Do they have any idea what they're walking into? Little case point example. I registered the name newswars.com 5 years ago, and I began building a site 6 months ago, predicting all of this, and it's almost ready. Oh, we're ready for the news wars. We're ready to define the terms of our age because we know the real fight we're in, not the fantasy land. Roger Stone joins us with a lot of breaking news, big appointment news, and more. I also want to ask you about Megyn Kelly. Got caught airing a tape of me talking about Hillary personally authorizing, and by law that means she personally is responsible for rape, murder, and torture of hundreds of thousands of people in Syria and Libya. They took it, cut off the part where I say that, and edited it to say that I said Hillary's killing people in the bottom of a pizzeria and they fear for their lives. I don't want to sue these people, but, man, I tell you, in the new year, there's going to be some lawsuits. Is it going to be against Facebook? Because we've already talked to the lawyers. That's why the Washington Post had to retract last week. You say people are Soviet agents and you say delist them, you're going to lose that suit. That's saying I'm a traitor. But it goes beyond that. You want to shut us down and block us from the internet without adjudicating it? That's prior restraint. That's gagging me. That is unprecedented. That is the essence of tyranny. The courts are going to eat them alive. They've hired Snopes to run it, run by George Soros. WikiLeaks said that he wanted control over licensing news. Imagine in court when we show the jury the WikiLeaks where the media premeditatedly lie, and then we say, tell us our stories that are false, and they roll in fake stuff we did, and we show them the real thing. Woo! Everything they say we said that's fake, we either didn't say or they edited it. We're going to destroy you. And that's not talk. Everybody knows what I do. I came here to defeat you people, not to lose, and we're going to win. We're going to Roger in a moment. I will tell you that we are going to sell out, and I've got to really commend my dad. I guess somebody took it out here. Can somebody bring me some Super Blue, please? It has colloidal silver. It has true nuclear iodine. That's why the toothpaste is white. When it oxidizes, it turns blue. My dad came up with the name Super Blue. My dad's a retired dentist, oral surgeon, chemist. And it is amazing. Now, we ordered a ton of this, and I can't believe it is going to sell out by tomorrow. It is going to sell out. I cannot believe it. It took 6 months to get this produced. They finally ran the big batch at the biggest lab in the country that makes the top organic toothpastes that are fluoride-free. Now, again, because we're private labeling, we're not supposed to say the name of the brand name, but it is the top brand name out there, folks. Private label by us. But with silver, tea tree oil, peppermint, and, of course, iodine added. And it is amazing. You can sign up for auto ship, get an additional 10% off on top of the fact we have free shipping running right now. And we have massive, massive, massive discounts of 50% off on colloidal silver that we private label from the top lab in the country. Normally sells for $24 at Whole Foods under another name. We normally sell it for $19.95 under Silver Bullet. Perfectly produced, 30 parts per million, highest quality, true colloidal silver. There's a lot of garbage out there. And it's now $9.95. There's a bunch of other specials that will rock your world. DNA Force sold out. A bunch of stuff is on the verge of selling out. Now, we're going to run this special through the weekend. But the free shipping will continue. But to get it anywhere in the continental U.S. or Hawaii or Alaska or Guam or the Virgin Islands, any U.S. protectorate, you got to order by today. It's got to be shipped by tomorrow, and our little elves right here in the same facility of our own shipping department will have it out by tomorrow. And they're working overtime. They're working until midnight. And they love the overtime. They're Americans. They love to work. They love to fight. But even if you order by Monday, anywhere in the continental United States, huge discounts. Take advantage of them. Some of the biggest we ever offer. Living Defense, Parasite Cleanse, 30% off. Silver Bullet, Cold Silver, 50% off. Rainforest, 33% off. Winter Sun, 25% off. DNA Force, that's sold out. Survival Shield X2, 30% off. Bio-True Selenium, 30% off. And a bunch of other specials. Hillary for Prison 2017 shirts, the Bill Clinton rape shirt, if you want to trigger the authoritarian minions. It's all available at InfoWarsStore.com. And by next week, in fact, Skyhorse keeps calling me because I'm about to order 10,000 more. We're going to be carrying The Making of a President, the definitive inside baseball of what really happened with Trump and then what's happening during the appointments and right through. It'll be published literally the week before the inauguration. And then start shipping out then. So we're talking 30 days till this baby drops or so. You'll be able to pre-order it at InfoWarsStore.com. But I don't care. Get it at Amazon right now. Drive it up to #1 so that it gets more attention. That's what the InfoWar is all about. Will we save the world just getting this book out? Well, maybe, because it's going to have a manifesto in it on a blueprint. If you want the, again, inside intel, a lot of it's public knowledge, what Bannon says, what Trump says, but the real plan to really make our poor, the richest poor people in the world, our middle class, the richest middle class, and our rich, the most truly libertarian-based win-win scenario Americana system. This is amazing. This is you're going to read stuff in this book you're not going to get anywhere else. So get that at thestonecoldtruth.com, or you can also get Amazon.com. By next week, it'll be available at InfoWarsStore.com. But take advantage of it, period. All right, joining us is Roger Stone. Roger, how stupid does the president look, who's set in about an hour and 10 minutes to give a press conference, his last supposed press conference, and they say it's going to be to go after Russia. He already talked to NPR yesterday and said he's going to get tough with them. He called Putin personally to say he's aware that Putin did it, even though all the heads of intelligence are saying it's not true. My CIA connections last week said it wasn't true and that Clapper would come out. It happened. Can't believe how high level my sources are. I mean, they're as high as they go, obviously, but this is very high level in the CIA, the military. I called 5 sources last week to confirm my analysis, and it's dead on. So it's a total fraud, a total hoax. Lynch has left the sinking ship. She says no Russian hack. Clapper, the head of all intelligence, says it. So now the Chinese grab one of our submarines, an unmanned submarine, a drone. We've had those for 50 years. So they're acting like it's something new. In the South China Sea, they're building missile launching bases. You name it. I don't want war with anybody, but it's China and the communists that are in our business. And they gave massive amounts of money to Hillary. They bragged about it. So did the Saudis. But then there's no proof of Russia, and they say we're Russian agents. So you and I privately have talked about some lawsuits because I'm not a litigious person, but I have sued twice for libel and won because I'm not going to sit here and be defamed as a damn Russian agent. And I know you said that's your line in the sand, Roger Stone.
Well, first of all, Alex, let me say there's a great deal of happiness and joy in the Stone household this morning because the postman brought the family supply of Trump is my president T-shirts for our annual family picture. So everybody sitting around here is tickled. Folks, if you don't have one of these yet, you need it for Inauguration Day. Wherever you are, even if you're not in Washington, you need to be wearing this to stand proud that you were part of this revolution and that you don't mind the torrent of abuse we have to take from the intolerant left. and the establishment. Anyway, Alex, to go to your point, we are in a classic disinformation campaign. Barack Obama and his Clintonite allies are taking 2 and 2 and making it add to 6. The White House press spokesman yesterday launched a personal attack on me, saying that Trump learned of the Russian hacking from his friend Roger Stone, who admits he had a relationship with Assange. All of that is false. I've been very forthright about the fact that I had a long distance length communications with Assange through an intermediary who happened to be a friend, and that I had that I knew that he held unspecified political dynamite.
That's right. I forgot to tell the crew.
The subject of it was not known to me. No one ever told me this came from the Russians. These are all just lies to justify, a false narrative.
By the way, I forgot to tell the crew. I dropped the ball for this interview today. There's video on YouTube of the press briefing. Guys, just try to pull up as quick as you can. Just click date added, Josh Earnest, Roger Stone. He says maybe. He says maybe Roger Stone.
It's a classic smear. Then today in the Washington Post, a near hysterical op-ed by John Podesta, who yet recycles the canard that I knew that he'd been hacked before he had. No, based on my own independent research and a piece I published on his corruption regarding an investment bank, none of which came from or is reflected in the WikiLeaks, I knew he was going to get bad press, which is why I said it's his turn in the barrel. Remember the context. He and his quizzling friends are unloading on Manafort with half-truths and lies and fabricated documents with the assistance of Ukrainian intelligence to try to discredit Manafort where...
They drew first blood. You simply pointed out the uranium deals and the banking deals with him and his brother.
We counterattacked, and now they are criticizing for us. Also, this idea that Trump called on the Russians to release it because Stone told Trump that the Russians were the hackers, disregards what was happening at the time. They were already attacking him for being in league with Putin and being a traitor for his country. Alex, this is the new McCarthyism, where you
Roger,
the patriotism of those who don't want the war that they want.
Well, Roger, it was purely clear back in July, 5-6 months ago, that he's being demonized as a Russian agent. They're claiming you're a Russian agent. And he sarcastically says, I know nothing about the Russians. I don't even know who did this. He said, but if they do have it, release it, because it's the Democrats committing the crimes. Who cares where the secret illegal emails come from? She has an illegal server with at least 6 governments on it. She's committed 10,000 times the crimes of Patriots or other people. So that's the point. They keep changing the subject. It's like the union ad.
In Podesta, in a move called Leading with Your Chin, yet repeats the falsehood that the 650,000 emails that were found by the NYPD that belonged to Abaddon and her husband, Anthony Weiner, were benign in that they contained nothing, and that the FBI did a painstaking examination of them over 2 days. That is pure, unadulterated bullshit. It's not true. I have talked to sources who have seen those documents. Those documents will see the light of day. The American people will see what was there. The NYPD was pressured on the Monday before the election not to contradict the FBI. And I think, in fact, DOJ threatened to indict additional New York police officers in the Eric Garner case if they publicly disagreed. So this was a Clinton campaign gambit, yet carried out again by Mr. Comrie.
Let me raise this point. We're 34 days out from President Trump. Clearly, Nancy Pelosi's daughter now claims she has 60-something, but all but one are Democrats. The other one is a sub-Democratic party, but it's still a Hillary voter. So all but one are Republicans. We now have Republican electors all over the record saying, I'm being death threatened. People are coming to my house. Meanwhile, Pelosi's daughter is on Fox News saying, I'm sending people to kill her with no proof. What do we do about this next level of deception?
Well, every time I think it's time to stop the steal down, because it was utilized as a grassroots vehicle to stop Ted Cruz and the Republican establishment from stealing the nomination from Trump at the convention. It was used to detect ballot fraud later in the Republican primaries. There needed to be a challenge to some seated Cruz delegates that we think were elected through less than legal methods. It served to look at ballot security and particularly machine security during the general election. And now, we have to remain vigilant because we're yet in another campaign. This is not just unorchestrated events. This is the Soros game plan. First, harp endlessly over the popular vote, which does not elect our president. Then, secondarily, launch the phony recounts in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania.
Then claim the Russians stole the election.
Right, produced naught, but yet the state tried to destabilize Trump. And then punch 3, here's a golden oldie. We heard as their campaign theme throughout the whole campaign, the Russians did it. Stone, Trump, Jones, these people are traitors to their country. I mean, questioning the patriotism of those you oppose is outrageous. They're the ones who march to a foreign god, not us. We're Americans.
That's right. They march to globalism and multinationals totally controlling our country, and then they invert it and blame it on us. Megyn Kelly aired an edited tape where I'm talking about Hillary funding people to kill Christians in Syria. I say it in a 1-minute clip. She airs 30 seconds and says I'm talking about this pizza place. I mean, there's got to be some point. I mean, I guess her ratings are plunging. I guess her audience...
Well, I'm sure that you have a video response to that up. But look, this is the same Megyn Kelly who was paid $6 million for her TV contract at Fox and then was given another $6 million for her book by Lachlan Murdoch, a book she didn't particularly want to do, a book that sat dormant until a chapter was inserted into it much later, falsely claiming that Roger Ailes had sexually assaulted her. So, in essence, she took $6 million to bear false witness about Ailes. I speak for no other case. I think Ailes is an honest guy who's been mugged. Some of these allegations go back 30 years. I have no idea, but in the case of Megyn Kelly, I do know. Roger Ailes never, ever acted inappropriately with this woman. She took $6 million in return for publicly saying so that Lachlan and his brother could finish the coup d'etat, and that CNN could become under the control of that Fox could come under the control of the globalists.
Well, absolutely. And then there's Murdoch at the White House yesterday. But, I mean, just look at how she says he hugged her too tight once.
No, hugged her inappropriately. Look, this is an absurdity. Ailes was set up and mugged in very quick fashion because he was an obstacle to Hillary's election, and they knew it. Roger Ailes is a fighter. And
we saw Fox take a major...
He was not going to let them cover up the facts. He was going to report the facts about Hillary because he was running a news organization.
Sure. Well, I mean, we saw a major globalist left turn as soon as Ailes was gone. I mean, the next day.
Well, and that's why I just have this feeling that the folks I do like there, like Judge Napolitano and Judge Jeanine Pirro and others who take on Trump's opponents like Sean Hannity are not going to be there long. That's my fear. I mean, they want to turn Fox into CNN. They want to turn it into worse. They want to turn it into the Sky Channel.
That's right. We're going to come back and talk about some of the appointments coming up, how Trump's doing, and more with Roger Stone. Then I'm going to shift gears into the 4th hour, and we've left that open, ladies and gentlemen, to talk to Dr. Steve Pachinik and take your phone calls. I want to ask him about this supposed CIA report as well. Oh, speaking of that Trump clip from July, I said days before, I didn't tell him this personally, I didn't talk to him then, other than that few days. I said, Trump should just come out and say, of course the Russians should release it if they did. Who cares? It changed the subject of all the criminality in the WikiLeaks. But I said it's probably U.S. intelligence. Now it's come out. 2 British ambassadors, experts, judges, intel people, Clapper, the Attorney General. They're all saying Russia didn't hack because they didn't. Meanwhile, the Saudi Arabians are in the front page of newspapers saying, we funded Hillary 20%. the Chinese are saying it. But that's all okay. The illegals voting, all that foreign influence, the big corporate money, that's okay. The Russians did it. You didn't vote for Hillary. I mean, you didn't vote for Trump because you have your own mind. You did it because they were mind controlling you. Here's Trump from his press conference.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. He doesn't respect our president. And if it is Russia, which is probably not, nobody knows who it is, but if it is Russia, it's really bad for a different reason, because it shows how little respect they have for our country when they would hack into a major party and get everything. But it would be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens. That'll be next. Yes, sir.
Okay, so he's very clear. He says no one knows who did it, but if you do have him, release it. They're saying he knew because of Roger Stone, and so he was working with the Russians. He was very clear. So again, they don't even show you what Trump actually said. They misrepresent again. This is why the dinosaur media is dying, Roger.
This is revisionism. It's Soviet-style revisionism where you rewrite history. Look, if you look at Craig Murray, the former UK ambassador, who says that the DNC documents were never hacked. They were leaked. They were handed over by someone, most likely this fellow Seth Rich, who takes several in the back, and that has never been explained.
And his mother says she thinks he was basically killed by the DNC. Absolutely. So they're so desperate they're trying to rewrite history, but we're countering them in real time. What does this signify? I mean, where would you say the enemy is right now? This was a football game.
Well, look, there's a coordination between the Russian hysteria they're trying to kick up, and they're even using the bully pulpit not only of the president to push that whole theme, but now to use it to attack me by name. I'm honored to have the president of the United States think that I am that effective. I am, however, not an agent for the Russians. I had no advanced knowledge of any hacking. I only knew through my own contacts that Assange had unspecified political dynamite, things that were capable of roiling the race. Anyone who'll go back and look at an earlier interview with him will see that he says this himself.
I know. And Assange has come out and said the mainstream media has no more credibility. They're less and less credible. Let's shift gears. If you do 5 more minutes, that's great if you can't understand.
Yes.
Let's get into who would be the best face of this administration as press secretary.
Well, look, I have read at Politico that Kimberly Guilfoyle from Fox News is being talked to about this job. Now, people, although she is undeniably absolutely beautiful, if one looks at her track record in her career, a former prosecutor who never lost a case, someone at the top of her class in both college and law school, someone who has exceeded in everything they have done, whip smart, understands the media, and has been a strong supporter of Donald Trump. I think she is ideal. The Washington Examiner yesterday reported that Sean Spicer, who works for the Republican National Committee and was their spokesman, this would be the same Sean Spicer who said that if Trump didn't get his poll numbers up, the party should rescind its financial support.
That's right. This guy's been stabbing him in the back. Plus, this lady likes Trump. She knows Trump. She speaks great Spanish. She's really smart. We need to get her in. We'll be right back. Stay with us, folks. Back in 70 seconds. 5 more minutes with Stone.
Visit
Then we're going to get into this whole CIA thing and more. Kimberly Guilfoyle, what a no-brainer choice. I mean, I don't watch a lot of Fox. I don't watch hardly CNN or MSNBC. I guess I monitor it some here and there, but mainly clips online. But she's one of the smartest, most talented people on Fox, and not just of the women, and I think she'd make a great press secretary. But I'm telling you, if he puts that Spicer in, I can hardly watch that guy. But I guess he's a little, buddy of the rest of the Republican snot-noses. Shame on the Republicans for trying to push him. I think it's a no-brainer, Roger. You were pretty excited a few nights ago. You were telling me you thought she was a shoo-in. Now you say it's on the fence?
Well, it's not clear. I have no particular inside information other than to say that I read in the Washington Examiner that this job would go to Sean Spicer. He is the man who picked John Harwood as the moderator for the RNC debate. Then I subsequently learned that she was in contention. She, as you say, she's the ideal face for the administration. Now, look, television is about appearances. You don't need a guy who's kind of fat and sweaty and defensive, and I just think she's right for the job. So,
of course, you don't have any inside information. You never do, Roger.
Well, I'm just, I only know what I read. Let's move along.
All right. Other areas here. How's Trump doing? What do you think his chances are getting in? 98%, 90%? We know they're going to pull more circuses.
I feel pretty good about the Electoral College. They've overplayed their hand, of course, through these death threats and other threats of violence. The near hysteria of the people's will being asserted is extraordinary. I've never seen it quite like this. People are belligerent and they're angry and they're near hysterical. I recounted to you the other day about a man who came up and spit on me on the street.
Sure, let me throw this in the time we have. Look, normally plays have 3 acts, but first it's, he didn't get the popular vote, then the recount, he gets more votes than that. Now he's a Russian agent, we got to overturn the electors. That isn't going well, but they're still moving.
Yeah, look, the same thing, Alex. I talked to 2 lawyers this morning to see if I had a legal case regarding both Podesta in today's Washington Post and Jost Earnest claiming that I'm a traitor to my country because I'm a public figure. They're not optimistic. If I thought that I would have a chance in such a lawsuit, I would file it tomorrow because this is a vile lie.
Sure, but I mean it's fighting words.
Contacts or influences or money, and I am a patriotic American who thinks Donald John Trump can save this country.
Here's my last question. What's the 4th act? I mean, we're all Russian agents, overturn the election. What's the next thing they're going to try? We know they aren't going to stop.
Well, you have a different period. They need to prevent Donald Trump from being sworn in and having the full powers of the presidency because when he has the bully pulpit, he will have the superior fulcrum to address all these lies. And maybe we can have an honest FBI and an honest CIA who really provide accurate information to the chief executive so he can make good decisions. It's time for a house cleaning at both agencies. That's pretty clear.
I mean, it's got to be done. The arrogance of this rogue CIA group. I mean, we were correct last week. It was just a rogue group. That's why they won't talk to Congress. It's made up. There's got to be some type of punishment for Obama and Hillary for doing this.
Well, and for Obama who would have to authorize any formal discussion between the CIA and the electors, as therefore obviously approved it, it just proves that he's in on the hijacking. I still think they will fall short.
But they're trying, so we are definitely in very interesting times, as the Chinese would say.
Look, I think you could go into an area of chaos. I cannot predict what the reaction of the Pentagon would be to that, or other rogue elements of government. I mean,
I know what the Pentagon's going to do.
Well, and I can't tell you what position the local police will take. But I don't think the American people will stand for an undemocratic theft like that.
Yeah, let's just hope all these arrogant globalists don't push it too far. Roger, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Alex.
Coming up, we're going to carry the president's final statement. Obama is set to speak in about 7-8 minutes. We're going to carry a little bit of it, but we already know what it's going to be. It's going to be, I talked to Putin and got tough with him. We got new sanctions, and I'm moving more troops into Europe. And the word is they're going to try to order our military to have some type of conflict with the Russians that are pushing out the ISIS al-Qaeda forces from key areas in disputed zones of Syria. So it's going to be more disgusting grandstanding. Lynch refuses to say that it was the CIA. Even officially saying this. It's some rogue group. And she says that there's no evidence the Russians did hack. The FBI says that. And, of course, it just goes on from there. Clapper says it's not true. Now none of the agencies will go to Congress. So it's just like the Bushes with their Office of Special Plans making up WMDs in Iraq. That's my view, and I've got sources that are CIA contractors, defense intelligence contractors, and major military currently, let's just say officers. I called 5 people last week And they said this is pure horse bull. And that's what William Binney has said, 2 British ambassadors and others. In fact, the word is if Hillary was going to get elected, they were going to have people have a press conference and just go ahead and put their names out there. The government knows the leakers. One of them they shot 4 times in the back, probably DNC Mafia. So, and WikiLeaks has said that as well, Julian Assange. It is not the Russians. But meanwhile, the Chinese just grabbed one of our submarines, an unmanned submarine, is threatening war, running all over us. So this is just crazy. Infowars.com is the news website. They are editing audio of us on Fox News, trying to destroy us. They're calling for us to be shut down. 3 different networks say I should be silenced. This is the desperate, I think, temper tantrums of a power structure being pushed out the door. Maybe I'm wrong. I called him last week, and he said, I'll come on, or my producer did, Nico Acosta. He said, the lead producer, I said, I want to get Dr. Begich on the show also to give us his take on what's going on. We're probably going to get him on this Sunday, but we've got Dr. Pachinik on now. But I'm getting a lot of people that have government contacts to give us their take. And obviously, he's the former head of the State Department, psychological warfare, big connections to the CIA, the military. Basically worked in most of these agencies, been involved in regime change. He's had a lot of high-level contacts. He obviously resigned from the Council on Foreign Relations after 9/11 because that was a false flag with the Saudis. But he joins us to break this down. I don't know his view yet. StevePachinik.com is his website. I usually check it. I haven't checked it, so he may have his views up there now. But he wanted to wait till Friday. I don't know if that was till he got more intel or until he was busy traveling or something. The point is I go into these interviews naked, so we get a real interview, not doing a pre-interview. So he joins us now. So Dr. Pachinik, what do you think is really going on here?
Well, Alex, you and I have been together for a long time. And one of the things that was so obvious and people really didn't get it was when I got onto your show and I said several months ago that Hillary and Bill had effected a civil coup. That wasn't, ex cathedra. That was not ad hominem. That was a very definite problem that we in the intelligence community, the selective part of the intelligence community, much of whom were military people. I'm not going to the specifics. And I warned you we would do a counter coup. We did. It was done through emails, through Julian Assange. I will not name individuals. I've always said Julian Assange was really a hero for America. I can guarantee that Russia was not involved. I have high respect for Vladimir Putin. I've worked with the Russians. I helped to take down the Soviet Union. I still have a very high respect for the Russians. The Russians did not need to hack into anybody's account. They can hack anything they want. So can the Chinese, but we do too. The real issue at hand is that Hillary failed miserably. And $1 billion.
Doc, I'm sorry to interrupt. The sun's shooting into your camera. It might also damage it. Can you tilt it down so it doesn't burn out?
Yeah, no problem.
Just as we started talking, the sun shot into the lens. Thank you.
Well, that may be too much light on this issue, but the bottom line is, look at what's really happened, Alex. What's really happened subsequently has nothing to do with Hillary and almost nothing to do with Obama. We have been able to place through Trump, Mathis, Secretary of Defense, Michael Flynn, the White House, Kellogg in the White House, Homeland Security, military. Look at all the military positions and imagine what it is I have been saying for years. I want military men or women to get involved in our government, not to start a war, but to basically end this nonsense of alternative narratives which have destroyed our country. 9/11, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, and the rest of the nonsense that was created by the Democratic administration, by Obama, Bush Jr., and the neoconservatives who are trying to get back into government, but we're trying to stop them.
Well, let me stop you because if we have new listeners every second on 30, 40 new affiliates we've got in the last few months. You have laid all this out on your website. You have laid this out for several years. And it's not that we want a military coup. It's that our military is not perfect, but at least it doesn't want to sell us out to the communist Chinese and the globalists. And this project went so far to sell us out that we were down to the country basically being gone. And you said what Trump needs to do and others is bring in people to positions, block the globalists, restore the republic, right the ship. And I know you've been writing articles saying Rex Tillerson is a good choice. I agree. You break down the fact that he's actually bringing in patriots that are anti-globalist, and then he's not bringing in neocons. You know, the one guy at Treasury was at Goldman Sachs, but he was actually an anti-globalist and anti-NAFTA got there. So not everybody at Goldman Sachs is bad is my point.
No, not at all. Goldman Sachs has a diversity of people. I mean, Bannon was at Goldman Sachs. He was at mergers and acquisitions. I had been an investment banker. I took down a major investment banking house that had $600 million, but they did illegal trading. Goldman Sachs has a lot of people, but the issue at hand here is that for the first time, we're bringing in businessmen, military individuals, people who are accountable.
Not just a bunch of lawyers. Exactly what you said we should push for. So let's talk about the real coup that's happened and then get back into Trump, because we're not bragging about this. It organically happened because of the people. It organically happened because the globalists were arrogant and they ignored the new media. I think their hubris is what we can really thank for the victory.
Well, we can thank several things. Let me go over it repeatedly. Number one, you and I, and you have been the voice, have been on the radio and on the alternative media, which really has become the mainstream media. And the media of the New York Times and the other ones can't accommodate to that reality. So they call whatever we do fake news, then they try to hit you. If they try to hit me, there's going to be a bigger problem, because I'm not representing any particular faction other than the fact that I said from day one, we had a false flag, we had an attack against our government, and we've had a president whose background we know nothing about, Obama. I've said that Obama is an American that was not necessarily born here, but clearly his mother was a CIA operative who acted with great distinction, as was his grandparents. But for the most part, after 8 years, we know nothing about Obama. All of that problem has changed now because we're bringing in people who have had to accommodate to standards and accomplishments. Before that, we had a Hillary, had no accomplishments, had 32 years of being close to power, had been collusive, had been corrupt.
Well, let's just say it. We put in the softest, most disconnected group of wannabe elites. Nothing wrong with Ivy League folks. You went to Harvard, MIT, top of your classes. But these people just think going to Harvard, they're magical and better than everybody, and they have a true disdain for America.
Well, the key here isn't that I went to Harvard and MIT. The key was that I was already in the military, and the military sent me to Harvard and MIT.
No, I agree. I'm just saying not everybody's bad, but this core group of elitists are delusional.
Well, the core group of elitists are not only delusional, they are so depressed and angry. What's happening is they're hitting back and they're not effective. One of the most important things you've done, Alex, and this entire show has done, and then subsequently Trump and family has done, is to make Washington irrelevant. The CIA has become irrelevant. Homeland Security has become irrelevant. All of the issues on the Pentagon, where you have 1 million people in the back office for 1 million soldiers, they are becoming irrelevant. So what Trump is saying, and in effect saying, get out of here, or the notion—
Let's be clear, there's 1 million bureaucrats for 1 million soldiers. There's a bureaucrat for every soldier.
That's correct. That's one back office person for every soldier. Now imagine what a waste of funds that is. It's close to $200 billion or more.
Shouldn't you have 20 soldiers for every bureaucrat?
I don't think so. We have 1 soldier for every bureaucrat, my friend.
No, I know, but I'm saying isn't a better model I've read is 20.
It's what we call a teeth to tail ratio. Would be 20 to 30 soldiers for every bureaucrat.
Sure.
But that's not in existence now. That's gone, because most of our fighting components come in from special forces, from SOUTCOM, from a defense intelligence agency. They're highly specialized. The other issue is that we're coming into a cyber war area where, in fact, we don't need all these people in the Pentagon, where we need highly trained specialists who can, in fact,
Sure. Sure. Doc, stay there. Stay there. The president's late speaking. We're only going to pop in a little bit, but we're going to go to break, come back, and then I got you off track. Let's get into the counter coup that's happened. They're now striking back. So they already had a coup, counter coup. Now they're attempting another, I guess, coup.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work, Alex. Number one, the Electoral College.
Sure, I understand. But, I mean, as you say, they're angry. They're butthurt. They're going to lash out. So what do you expect to happen? And what's the word from the intel community if they try something? I'm told if they try something, it's going to be seen as illegitimate, and they're going to be in big trouble. We'll be back. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us. Incredible time to be alive, folks. Tell your friends and family. Tune in right now. This is important stuff. All right, Obama's late to his press conference. There's probably not much there, but we'll report to you what he's saying or what he's doing. We might play some clips if he gets into attacking Russia. This is a short segment, long segment coming up with Dr. Steve Pachinik. Again, worked in high levels, Black Ops, State Department, you name it. Specifically, though, you mentioned how hysterical they are and how crazy they are. They have major newspapers calling for Trump's death and overthrow and insurrection and just basic panicking. So I agree with you. The whole military's turned against him, the intelligence community, the American people. Trump's polls are much higher than what they say, but polls do show that people are becoming more optimistic. His poll numbers are going up. It usually goes the other direction. But I don't want to be pessimistic, but what are you concerned about? I mean, I think they might try to set off a rogue nuke or something with some criminal group. I think Soros has doubled the amount of money to civil insurrection groups. It appears like they're going to try anything they can to overthrow this attempt to restore the republic.
I don't think Soros can do very much anymore. He's played out his hand with MoveOn.org and all the other issues, and with Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton. The truth of the matter is the entire government has shifted away from its old habits, and what's happening now is we're reconfiguring to be smaller, more effective, and we're concentrating on one issue, and that's jobs. I'm not worried about what the left can or can't do, the liberal media. For the most part, they're finished. They know, and they can't explain, how did Alex Jones create this phenomenon? How did Trump come in without anybody understanding it? So what's happened is an entire new vocabulary where the alternative media becomes the regular media, where binary numbers 1 and 0 can overwhelm a woman who spends $1 billion like Hillary and spends it foolishly on advertising on television. And we have a president who's a businessman. So this revolution is really what the American people want. This is what we need. Their responses are irrelevant. The fact that they talk about the Russians, that's not even relevant. Putin knows that. We know that. Our military is very close to the Russian military. We have all kinds of exchanges in the same way that our military has a very good relationship with the GRU and the FSB and several other areas. And now you have to remember that what Trump has done is literally to put in businessmen into the Treasury. He's put in an amazing businessman into the Secretary of State position, who I think, Tillerson, I've never met the gentleman. I think his profile is perfect. I do thank James Baker, for suggesting him. And I think he should pick his own deputy. This is a man who's run a $400 billion corporation.
Well, he knows world leaders everywhere. They say he's extremely charming, the best salesman ever.
Well, you have to be. If you're going to be head of ExxonMobil, that is America. I mean, one of the things that I think your audience and the people in the United States have to understand is that the business of foreign policy is not policy, it's business. We're out there to create more business for our business.
He's taking us back to what we were. What made us great is commerce.
That's exactly right. When I opened up and I was involved in the disarmament of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, and we put a peace treaty there, which was one of the most significant things under James Baker, we were waiting for the businessmen. And who came in? No one. They came in from Australia. They came in from the Far East to take over Cambodian businesses. However, over time, our American businesses came in. What Tillerson has done is he's been in the forefront of American business, penetrating into Yemen, Chad.
He's been one of the few people actually expanding while everything else is contracting. And we just got some bad news in, but I have to see if this is even true, because the Washington Post now is hoaxing every day. I mean, they're worse than the Onion now, and I mean that literally. with Bezos running it. FBI-backed CIA view that Russia intervened to help Trump. So they've had the head of the FBI come out and say that isn't true. They've had the head of the Justice Department come out and say it. And now FBI Director Comey and National Intelligence Director James Clapper have backed the CIA assessment that Russia intervened in the 2016 election to help Trump. And it doesn't even say really where, but this doesn't even show proof. So they're now reversing themselves, they claim, but I don't even see the proof. Earlier this week, I met separately with Director James Comey and DNI Jim Clapper, and there is strong consensus among us of the scope, nature, and intent of Russian interference in our presidential election. CIA Director John O. Brennan said in a message to the agency's workforce, according to U.S. official. So this is a secret message they're saying inside the CIA that contradicts what the head of all intelligence is saying and what the Attorney General is saying and what the FBI had saying. Does that sound credible to you?
What's not credible is, first of all, Obama's finished. He's been finished for the past 6 months or past 2 years. Everything that he's tried to accomplish is finished.
Sure, stay there. Let's talk about that, Doctor. But my point is, talk about a war inside the intelligence agencies, and the stuff that keeps coming out of the Washington Post is secret reports that Congress can't even see. Then the heads of the agency says bull. Ladies and gentlemen, Obama is a good 18, 19 minutes late to give his, quote, final statement and press conference as president. But they're billing this as the final deal. There's major jockeying behind the scenes. This is clearly timed. I had a chance to read the article during the break. When I first saw this, that had just been published 6 minutes ago, when Obama was already late coming out to give his speech, I thought, oh, my God, it's like on election night. Hillary wouldn't concede, and finally at 2 in the morning, Obama called her and said, you got to, but don't worry, we'll try to beat him down the road. People are too awake. They're too upset. They're too ready for the steal right now. We got to challenge this once they go to sleep over the holiday. Well, now we know that's exactly what happened. And they have the CIA come out and say, no, it's all real. And Clapper and Comey agree. And they've reportedly had them double back in private meetings and say, okay, the Russians did manipulate the election. So is Obama about to announce that we need to have a new election as they have CIA minions like Bob Baer on TV? I mean, I'm telling you, my gut tells me they're going to go for broke. Are most of the intelligence agencies awake? Are the people awake? Yes. Is Soros activating the destabilization squads, doubling the money? Yes. Are they crazy? Did they fund the Arab Spring? Did they fund the Ukraine overthrow? Yes. Do they know that they're all about to have the whole system taken away from them and that globalism as we know it is over? And now it'll be Americanism globally, not globalism, and not force, but commerce. They are in absolute conniption fit. And Dr. Steve Pachenik's our guest. He got cut off by the break. He might want to, again, the sun is shooting into his camera. Maybe he can just lower that blind a little bit more. And I appreciate him doing that, but he's joining us via video Skype. So much to break down. So look, they're going after the free press now. They're going after us now. They're saying on 3 channels the last 2 days, shut Alex Jones down. I don't want to be the center of this. It shows how weak they are that we're kicking their butt, but it's the power is you, the listeners. But I'm telling you, they are coming after us because they know their time is short. The devil sends the beast with wrath because he knows his time is short. I mean that as an allegory, not literally. Before they say that I'm saying, that this is the end of the world. So Dr. Pachenik is our guest here, and I know that I was just cutting him off with the break, but these are epic times. I want the audience to know how epic this is. The president is postponing his speech. Weirdness is going on behind the scenes. This is quite a jump they're making. They're clearly thinking about trying to have a new election. That will cause insurrection. But CNN says it's okay. They said this week a bunch of times, Mr. President, we want a national emergency, suspend the election. They're openly calling for it. So you're seeing what happens in third world countries right now, folks, but in a high-tech way. And again, the ace in the hole is Trump going public, as I have relayed and others have relayed to him. He has to come out and say the Chinese gave you money, the Saudis gave you money, the EU got involved, the press got involved, illegals voted. Let's say the Russians were involved. Okay, that's one marble, in the scale with 20 marbles over here. The weight shows you manipulated it. It doesn't matter. and we all know it's a lie to begin with. This is incredible. We've had WikiLeaks tell us it came from Americans. We've had Americans that are killed. We've had spy chiefs tell us that. We've had ambassadors tell us that. We know that this is going on. Patriotic, try to boil this down as best you can. I'm really concerned. I know you're putting a good face on it, and you know, you believe what you're saying here, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, let's go back a while. I've been saying this for several years, that in effect, the people who created political narratives like Obama or Hillary or Bush Jr. that are not consistent with our American values had to pay a price. They have, and now Trump is the leader. Whatever they do is not going to impact on what we're doing right now. The people involved in the release of the WikiLeaks and who were involved in the intelligence community, as Julian Assange said, it was not the Russians, it's not the Chinese. In fact, if we could predict, and you and I could predict this outcome, then it bears fruit.
Well, you said U.S. intelligence was getting ready to do it a year ago.
I said this was going to happen a year ago. So, in effect, this is a fact. This is de facto. They can't change anything. If they want to attempt anything, what you're seeing is the squealing and the outcry of dying people. It's like elephants in a graveyard. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're ineffectual, they're eunuchs. We've done what we had to do, and no one's going to change that. I can assure you, no one will change that. Trump understands it. Our generals understand it. The real intelligence community that's not begotten to John Brennan will understand it. Brennan is finished. The CIA is finished. The Presidential Daily Briefing, which is the PDB, is finished. He doesn't want to read it. He doesn't care about it. And in fact, what we're talking about is the elimination of thousands and thousands of sycophants who've been in the CIA and the military establishment, who were not professionals, who did not go out and have to fight, who were not on the ground providing human, and instead were wasting our money on drones. So the reality is we will continue what we have put in place. And I've said this a year ago, I said it 2 years ago. Those who were involved in 9/11, those who were involved in the lies of Sandy Hook, those who were in line with Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Bush Jr. have paid a very heavy price and will continue to pay that price. We have, in effect, won. This revolution, like any revolution, is major, but it has gotten rid of the garbage that we've had in Washington, particularly people who have no jobs, who are politicians, who are lawyers.
Sure. So let me raise this. And by the way, the sun problem on your camera is good now, so thank you for, that's fine now. Expanding on this, Dr. Patriotic, let me ask you this question. Clearly, they're trying, what would you call it? If they had a coup, we had a counter coup. This is pretty much admitted now. They know U.S. intelligence did it. They're so upset about it that they're trying to blame it on Russia for the optics. They think they're going to win. They're moving forward, but they look really panicked and scared. They're acting scared. They're running scared. Like you said, I agree with you then. How does this play out? I mean, what are the different scenarios? If Obama comes out, he's now like, almost 30 minutes behind schedule. If he comes out and says, we're going to look at having new elections to float that trial balloon, what do we do?
We do nothing. Basically, it's not going to let us, it has no credibility. Obama's finished. He knows that. All he's trying to do is write the final chapters for his novel, or as he calls it, the autobiography. He can say whatever he wants. Nobody's going to listen. It's not legitimate. We couldn't care less what Brennan says. We couldn't care less what the CIA says or the FBI. Their credibility has been delegitimized. In fact, the new system, the new government is in waiting, and all it takes us is just a few weeks to stay there and wait. But in fact, the de facto regime is in place. Obama's irrelevant. He has been irrelevant for so many years, I can't even tell you. He's just basically speaking for his last chapter. Brennan is irrelevant. The CIA has become irrelevant. DNI will be knocked down. That's Director of National Intelligence. We don't need it. So in effect, what's happening is Trump is watching this as the elephants are dying. And they're literally dying. The Republicans who weren't with us, the Democrats who weren't with us, they're all finished. and they understand that the lobbying on K Street will also disappear, and a lot of other people will have no jobs. When you have thousands of people at stake, look at all those press people. They're not relevant. What's relevant is you, I, Roger Stone, and millions of others.
That's right. They don't get their vestigial. They don't get, just the technology has moved on past them. We've just entered the vacuum. They don't even, they think if they shut us up, that somehow that will make them relevant again. They're making the same mistake that every other dying old system made.
That's exactly right. Alex, I want you to think for a moment. How can a woman who's supposedly bright, but I've always said she was never very bright, spend $1 billion on TV ads when Trump just simply picked up his iPhone and Twitter? Didn't cost him anything. This is 21st century technology. She couldn't think out of the box. She wasn't creative. Obama couldn't think out of the box. He was not creative. And what you're seeing now is the very essence of American entrepreneurship. By definition, you and I are entrepreneurs. Whatever content we provide, it's the basis of our livelihood. We create a company. We decide whether we
enrich. We produce something.
That's correct. But Obama has produced nothing. The CIA has produced nothing. All they
notice how Trump they're admitting is more presidential in a month of being president-elect and is more commander-in-chief and has already brought back more jobs. I mean he's brought back just $50 billion from Japan, $10 billion in steel, 85% of the carrier jobs, and a bunch of other stuff. Now IBM says they're moving back. Apple says they're looking at moving back. All these other high-tech companies. And then the union for Obama bitches and says, you didn't bring all of them back to Indiana. And Trump tweets back, well, this is why you lost the jobs to begin with. You ingrate. Then the media bitches and says in the Washington Post, quote, Trump's going to get people killed. He shouldn't hit back when he gets hit.
The point of fact is the media is finished. Bezos is not relevant in the Washington Post. The New York Times is owned by a drug lord from Mexico. I mean, it's a joke. The whole thing is finished. What's relevant is they're going to try to shut you down, but believe me, I've said it for a long time to you and your audience. You're far more important.
Well, let me ask you that question. I know you have a lot of big sources. I have a lot of high-level sources, probably some of the same people. They say, including a source with Sessions, that they really are kicking around this week a way to go after the free press, the alt-right, with me as a poster boy. That's why they've done a 2-week demonization, but at the last minute, Lynch refused to do it, and others did. So this just shows that, and Lynch last year contemplated censoring the conservative press, which we're not even that. They call us that. So it really shows they've entered hysteria mode. Don't they understand this destroys them in the view of the world?
No. What happens is their narcissism and their arrogance, as you said, is cocoons their whole idea of who they are and what they are, when in fact they're nobody. They haven't done anything. They haven't produced anything. In 2 weeks, Trump has done more with his Twitter, walking, in fact, to Boeing, telling Boeing, you're going to have to reassign your numbers, telling F-35s at Lockheed Martin, you're going to have to reassign your numbers, than Obama has done in 8 years. So Obama is finished. He's in the
That's right. That's right. For decades, no one would tell them, make this jet better, don't rip us off. So, of course, they ripped us off. And he's just finally acting like we have a consciousness.
That's correct, because he's a businessman. And he understands, like you and I, we produce something, it costs something in turn. Obama's never been a businessman. Hillary Clinton's never been in a business. Bush Jr. hasn't been.
And so they're a bunch of frauds that are scared that a real business person who isn't just a parasite showing up, they're all scared.
Correct. And when you're frightened and you're a eunuch, which is what most of these presidents have been and politicians, they're ineffectual. All they knew was vulnerability and how to pander. That's not the basis of business. But that's
why they sell this fear-based nanny state crap.
That's exactly right. You have the correct force, politically correct speak force. You had an Obama whose history is not even known. I mean, this is a joke. And what's happened in that sick joke is that people have died overseas in wars that we didn't want. What was the result? They were unconsciously, they had affected what you and I have done with the military, and that is to put in people who are professionals, who understand the outcome and who understand results. And that's Trump. The civilian Trump understands how important the professional military is and the professional businessman is. Whereas the Obamas and the entire White House, it's pathetic.
Well, sure, but traditionally, any successful country has its intelligence operations by the very best that have already proved themselves in the military or at least in business or medicine. You never brought in the spoiled princes and people, you know, to actually be part of anything if they hadn't already proven themselves. Instead, we bypass that selection process and just put a bunch of spoiled brats in who innately don't like real men and real producers and have a score to settle, so they try to extinct the non-eunuchs who they're in competition with, mounting the head of the very country that gives them the power on the wall because of their subconscious fears of it.
Well, let me put it, I think it's a brilliant analysis. You're a psychiatrist, but basically what these people are self-destructive. From the very beginning, when Bush opened up his mouth, when Bill Clinton started off with his nonsense, and then...
I'm sorry to interrupt. The president is Obama, 44, is talking about Russia. Let's go to it now.
They're trying to obfuscate the truth. The world should not be fooled, and the world will not forget. So, even in a season where the incredible blessings that we know as Americans are all around us, even as we enjoy family and friends and are reminded of how lucky we are, we should also be reminded that to be an American involves bearing burdens and meeting obligations to others. American values and American ideals are what will lead the way to a safer and more prosperous...
Which he's at war with, American ideals. Americanism, not globalism.
And by the way, few embody those values and ideals like our brave men and women in uniform and their families. So I just want to close by wishing all of them a very Merry Christmas.
Now they'll go into Russia.
And a happy...
I missed the first part of what he said, but we'll get a transcript.
I will take some questions.
Here's the first one's going to be Russia. Here it goes.
Josh Letterman of AP.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a perception that you're letting President Putin get away with interfering in the U.S. election, and that a response that nobody knows about or a look-back review just don't cut it. Are you prepared to call out President Putin by name for ordering this hacking? And do you agree with what Hillary Clinton now says, that the hacking was actually partially responsible for her loss? And is your administration's open quarreling with Trump and his team on this issue tarnishing the smooth transition of power that you...
Look at these scared dinosaurs.
Well, first of all, with respect to the transition, I think they would be the first to acknowledge that we have done everything we can to make sure that they are successful, as I promised, and that will continue. And it's just been...
See, he has his surrogates trying to overthrow the election while he acts like he's not.
About a whole range of transition issues. That cooperation is going to continue. There hasn't been a lot of squabbling.
I think he was holding off because they were thinking about calling, the word was,
which are that,
for looking at a new election.
Based on...
But that didn't just happen. I think Soros just didn't get what he wanted just now.
Intelligence assessments. The Russians were responsible for hacking the DNC. And that, as a consequence, it is important for us to review all elements of that.
Get rid of free speech.
And make sure that we are preventing that kind of interference.
Fade him down. We'll bring him back up in a minute. A quick response to this, Dr. Pachinik. What do you make of this Office of Thought Crimes, this free speech police, this Office of Speech that they're setting up in the State Department, obviously with the CIA, with 160+ million, admittedly to go out and engage in disinformation operations? I mean, obviously Trump's got to veto that immediately. This is, but I almost welcome it. Once we have open state-run media, this is just ridiculous.
Well, number one, you're not going to see any more press in the White House. I predict that Trump will get rid of all that nonsense. Number two, this is the end of Obama. This is how he started, just empty air discussions. In a way, what's interesting is Obama is talking about an operative who became the leader of a country. Now, I happen to know that Obama was an operative in the CIA, not an effective one, but somebody who did work in the CIA, and he's working against Putin, who worked in the KGB and then basically led a country into a very effective presence. Obama has led this country into a disaster. So what you're seeing is the counterpart of Russian effectiveness, Russian aggression, Russian leadership versus a pathetic individual who was co-opted by the CIA, whose parents happen to be very good CIA operatives, but who's a total product of John Brennan and Tenet and the CIA groupthink that has always been a problem for people like myself, for the military, and those who affect real change.
All right, we're going to come back to that in a moment. He's talking about victims in America of the Russian hacking. Nothing about China or Saudi Arabia. Let me ask you this briefly, Dr. Pachenik. Don't you think Trump should come out and say, look, the Chinese and the Saudis in newspapers bragged they were giving massive money to Hillary, 20% of her funding from the Saudis alone. That's foreign interference with them bragging. So until you investigate that, stop only looking at this. This is a load of horse crap.
Well, you know, Trump is now riding above the crest. He doesn't need to respond to anything right now because what he's absorbing is very simply that he's laughing his way into success or to the bank in the same way that Michael Flynn is, the same way James.
No, sure, they're all very, very confident, but their surrogates need to point out that we, the people, took the country back despite foreign manipulation that was public, and so we won. Let's go back to the president. Here it is.
Both what had happened and then you interpreted why that might have happened and what effect it was going to have on the election outcomes. We did not. And
this is the president meddling in the election, acting like he's not.
This hyper-partisan atmosphere.
Oh, you're not hyper-partisan.
My primary concern was making sure that the integrity of the election process was not in any way damaged. At a time when anything that was said by me or anybody in the White House would immediately be seen through a partisan lens. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood we were playing this thing straight. So we weren't trying to advantage.
See, his job is to act like he's reasonable while the surrogates run around engaging in just psychopathic behavior.
Taken place, and so if you started seeing effects on the election, if you were trying to measure why this was happening and how you should consume the information that was being leaked.
Yeah, let's blame the loss on the Russians.
You might want to take this into account. And that's exactly how we should have handled it. Imagine if we'd done the opposite. It would have become immediately just one more political
No, I told Trump make a big deal out of the Chinese and the Saudi Arabians and the Pope and the EU in our election from day one because they were going to pull this crap.
Do the work.
I'm confident, like Pachenik is, we're going to beat them, but it shows they're going to dig in and they're not going to give up. They're going to keep trying to sabotage the country. Before we go any further, and I finish with Dr. Pachenik, I'm going to host some of the next hour of David Knight. As we go into this Christmas holiday season, we're going to have to get aggressive in the culture war and get right back in these people's faces, but also recruit dehumanized people, take them out shooting, try to rehabilitate them, try to explain to them why they're so unhappy, because the state is their mommy now, and they're not happy, they're not fulfilled, so they think more of a state will make them happy. They're like little children. And first of all, I want to thank those for their support. We have free shipping running through right through next week, but the last day to get it anywhere in the U.S. or any protectorate is today, because anything shipped up by tomorrow will get to you before Christmas. Now, anywhere in the continental U.S., you can order by Monday. But we're going to obviously be shipping right up till Friday for orders that come in. We've got 24-hour turnaround right now with our great crew. And the purchases make it all possible. Free shipping, sign up for auto ship, get an additional 10% off. 50% off our high-quality colloidal silver, Silver Bullet, X2's 30% off, Secret 12, 30% off. A lot of stuff is on the verge of selling out because at year-end we want to get rid of our inventory, and that's happening. You got to pay taxes on stuff, obviously. It's like 10% or something ridiculous. So we're trying to sell out of everything. So a lot of stuff's selling out. Super Blue, the new toothpaste my dad developed. He's an oral surgeon, a dentist, and chemist. It's got iodine in it, the high-quality true iodine. It's got the colloidal silver and a lot more. Check out Super Blue. It is about to sell out. No reviews yet because we just started selling it 3 days ago. And it's about to sell out. And so I raised the price because we need to fund our operation. But I want to thank you all for your support. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. I want to hire 5 more reporters, 4 or 5 more writers. I want to hire more camera people, more editors. We need to be able to have people at 3 different places at one time. Right now I've been working 16 hours a day, okay? And I'm not bitching about it. I just need more crew. We need at least a second string around here to make it a first string, to have some depth so people aren't working 7 days a week so we can do a better job. It's not that I don't want to work. I just need to rest because then I'm better. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139 for the supplements, for the Hillary for Prison shirts, for the non-GMO heirloom seeds, you name it. Find out about Dr. Pachinik's great books with Tom Clancy and the books he's recently written and all his work at StevePachinik.com. You can follow him on Twitter and Facebook. Just Google Steve Pachinik. Doc, finishing up in this segment and the next, because I know I've been jumping in a lot. There's a lot of stuff breaking, and I appreciate you co-hosting with us in this hour. I've got to say, I've been interviewing you for 15 years. It's 15 years now. You were in the Council on Foreign Relations, famous spy chief, overthrew governments, you name it. And, one of the founders of Delta Force was General Boykin, and was it Schumacher. And, I know a lot of people in the military talk about the great work you did in classified stuff, but I got to hand it to you. You talked about the de-evolution of power back to the States 6 years ago on the show, 5 years ago. You talked about this whole model the EU would fall. You really had the most optimistic view, and I quite frankly thought it was too optimistic. I got to say, 6 years later, you really are one of the most visionary people we interview, so hats off to you.
Well, it's a pleasure, Alex. Without you and your audience in this wonderful country, we weren't able to affect what we could. Let me say one thing. I'm going to wish everybody a good Christmas, not just good holiday, but a good Christmas. And please understand that our country is very strong. The dollar has gone up. The stock markets will continue. With the appearance of Trump and the people he's put in, the world understands one thing. We're coming back to be the major power. Russia's not an issue. China's
Hold on. Obama's getting into fake news. Stay there. All hell's breaking loose. Back it up. I know it's a live press conference. This is crazy. Stay with us, Dr. Pachinik. Stay with us, audience. 4th hour, Infowars.com/show. Some stations don't carry it. Infowars.com/show. But most do carry the 4th hour now. They were popping in my ears saying, "Oh, the president just talked about fake news, fake news." So I thought he was demonizing us because he's been out saying ban fake news, restrict the free press in speeches all over the world, from Greece to Brazil the last month. So is the Pope. But now we're queuing it up. Next segment, we're going to play it with David Knight. He came out and said the fault of the whole Russian hack thing was the press promoting it and I guess poo-pooing it. So, man, they are like schizophrenic. They're saying one thing 1 hour, another thing another hour. They got the CIA saying, no, Lynch thinks it's real, even though she's giving press conferences saying it's not. Same thing for Comey. I think we're seeing major desperation moves here. So finishing up with Dr. Steve Pachinik, who knows the intelligence community because he was in the State Department and obviously other agencies coordinating things at the highest levels in multiple administrations. This is one hell of a time to be alive. Looking at this, what looks like just mishmash hysteria, this looks like panic. I talked to a high-level contractor and some other folks, obviously people in the private agencies that things like Booz Allen, people that fuse the info, and they're saying that it's just that total hysteria, a bunch of leftists running in different directions, like a hair on fire drill, not knowing what they're doing. I mean, you think that's an accurate statement?
I think it's very accurate. What you're seeing now is basically the president, Obama, really very frightened of what Trump can do. The legacy that the president has is being destroyed. Osama bin Laden was not killed. Michael Flynn made a point of that. That was absolute nonsense. I've said it for years. His Obamacare is going down in flames, and we have a surgeon now in charge of health and human services, and we have a surgeon now in charge of HUD. Now we have professionals. Obama can't handle this. The liberals can't handle it, and the media has nowhere to go. They can't rationalize, how does a man in a studio who started with nothing 15 years ago or 20 years ago, i.e. Alex Jones, get so much power and influence when they, in turn, seem to have none? And CNN has none. MSNBC has none. Now I understand Fox News is going after you. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. You have to be stupid if you want to go after Alex Jones. The major turning point, and I said it on your show months ago, what happened to the defeat and self-destruction of Hillary Clinton was when she pointed out to Alex Jones' show and blamed you for the false narratives that we created, that Sandy Hook wasn't real, that the 9/11 wasn't real. And in fact, what she did was to corroborate the very fact that all Americans knew 9/11.
Sure, so they didn't feel alone. So let me ask you this question in closing. And again, I'm just a bellwether. It's not that I'm that good. It's that they're that weak. Let me ask you this question. Do you think they'll be successful openly announcing they want censorship and want George Soros and a group he runs, as Facebook has announced, to certify what websites you can visit and what you can't? This is incredible arrogance.
No, there's no way that's going to happen. Number one, no matter what Soros thinks or no matter what Zuckerberg thinks, still, please remember that the internet was created by DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. The key word there is defense. It's not CIA, it's not civilian. I warn the left again. If you do not understand what I'm saying, DARPA developed the internet. DARPA developed social media. I was trained in that in 73. Trump was trained in that in the 2000s. And so we are using simply the methods and sources that were created by the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. The CIA did not create anything. Homeland Security did not create anything. DNI.
And isn't it designed that when you try to shut it down, it makes it sprout into something new?
Well, when you try to shut it down, you're going to get something new. And I can guarantee you will not be shut down. You have been such an important voice to American freedom and to those who serve in our country, literally serve overseas and domestically. There is no way that the President of the United States or the wannabe President Hillary can shut you down. If they try, the consequences will be very serious to them, and I will not specify.
All right, that's what I've been told by others. It's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you want to restore the republic. But I got to tell you, we're getting right up close to the summit, right up to that peak. We're already in the snowdrift, my friends. We are up there on top of the mountain. And we could see for miles and miles and miles. And the dirty rats that seize this country, that infiltrated, that worm their way into things, the parasites that are freaked out by greater men and women, they are having conniption fits right now. They are freaking out, regardless of whether Trump's good, bad, or ugly. The victory over the globalists, the victory over the press, the victory over their system, what he said about world government, the New World Order, crony capitalism, is incontrovertible. It's death wounds to the globalist, to their system. And in their own publications, like Financial Times and The Economist, where they actually pretty much admit what they're doing but put a good spin on it, they admit they've gone from being in trouble a few years ago to being in red level, burn down the house, the ship is sinking, go to the lifeboats, run to the hills. And that's why Oberman and all these parasites are having freakouts. We read the transcript earlier, and then I had him skip ahead. We lost the spot where he was actually blaming the press for making a big deal of it. Then he went, the Russian hacking, then he went into, well, we can't really publicly shame Putin if he denies it. Publicly shame our criminal government, and the State Department admits it spent $5 billion trying to overthrow Ukraine in the last 4 years, and they did it 3 years ago. They spent, Soros goes on TV and admits it. They admit they started the Arab Spring and put radical jihadists in charge. They admit they turned all this loose. They admit they've tried to run, 7 or 8 color revolutions around Russia the last decade trying to overthrow it. Bush did some of this too. And that they tried to run 3 of them inside Russia, running candidates against Putin. And Putin finally said, that's it, I'm arresting all these Soros people and deporting them. We're talking about tens of thousands of Americans and other people running around Moscow trying to overthrow their country. And it's not like they're trying to overthrow it and put in a free country, because Russia's already going in that direction. Lower taxes, gun rights, family rights. They're trying to install teaching 5-year-olds how to be gay. And again, I don't get into all that, but you shouldn't be sexualizing children. With homosexuality, heterosexuality, anything, they used to call that pedophilia. And there is this whole pedophile agenda. Look at Salon pushing pedophilia. Look at President Clinton on the Lolita Express with a convicted pedophile going to a pedo island. Man, these people are into this crap. And so I am going myself to get into the Clintons and get into all of them in the pedophilia, because they took Pizzagate and said that I was the head of it and edited tapes. And I at first I didn't figure out what was going on. Now I figured it out. Now I figured it out. They are so pissed. How do you take the WikiLeaks that clearly $65,000 in succulent, delicious hot dogs. Oh, I'm craving a hot dog. I can't wait to go to the party. Are these really the best? Oh, these are the best hot dogs. Smell prostitutes. Now, here's the deal. That you're able to blackmail the president with that information. So there's a bunch of that stuff in there. There's a reason WikiLeaks released this. WikiLeaks said, look at this. So they diverted off into the pizza place, which is got rock singers going, and your preferences, men or women? I like kids. Well, we all have our preferences. And like, what the hell? And weird art and weird stuff, and it's David Brock's boyfriend, and just all this crap. But then I hear that I'm saying Hillary's killing kids in the basement. And I finally find the tape. I'm talking about Syria, Hillary funding jihadis who are putting kids in sex slavery. So I figured it out. They diverted us off, just like Karl Rove would put a fake document reportedly into the Dan Rather thing to discredit the whole deal. That's what they do. And then I really clicked whenever Nancy Pelosi's daughter came out. The last few days, I went, Alex Jones is sending people to kill me. Played it yesterday. I'm scared. Like Pizzagate, he sent the gunman. We've got to ban his speech. It gonna hurt me. Oh, he claims I'm trying to overturn the election. Meanwhile, her very electors that are Democrats that can't even do it are saying, we want a coup. So I love they go, we're not trying to overturn the election, but we need to right now. Here's a video of celebrities saying, do it. Be a hero. Overturn Trump. Man, it's this weird thing where there's such control freaks. They tell you that we're overturning the election, and then they say, you're crazy, we're not. I haven't figured the psychology out yet, or whether they're gaslighted. You know, there's Martin Sheen. I'll tell you about Martin Sheen. I probably had dinner with Martin Sheen 10 times. I've had coffee with him probably 15 times. I have stayed at Martin Sheen's house. It is Martin Sheen that introduced me. Well, his son, Emilio Estevez, introduced me to all of them. A big viewer of our show, kind of a libertarian, that family doesn't take vaccines. They have whole milk. They're aware of the New World Order. And I sit there with Martin Sheen arguing with him because he liked me because I didn't like Bush. And then later he's like, well, you don't like Democrats either. And he has to admit I'm right at dinner. And then you see him always running around, saying, be a hero. We've got to basically overturn Trump. It's a gang. It's a cult, folks, because let me tell you something. If you're not for Democrats in Hollywood, you don't work. And that guy's been the mayor of Malibu. He's known as the mayor of Malibu. Martin Sheen's right up there at the top. I mean, you'll be at his house, and here comes Anthony Hopkins into the, let's have some, roast beef with horseradish. You're sitting there. Super gracious people, super nice. Oh, here's Princess Diana's butler. And you're like, yeah, you're famous. I know you. It's crazy. And they know all about everything. And they've got armed bodyguards. And they're not really against the Second Amendment. But then when you see them on TV, it's crazy. And I'm not going to get into the rest of it, folks. I didn't even get into Hollywood because of the Sheens and Emilio Estevez. That came later. I was already out there, doing TV shows, being in some movies. When Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen called me about 11 years ago. I'm not name dropping here. But I saw how empty Hollywood was. Believe it or not, they were some of the most fulfilled people. The Sheens were, the mom and dad senior. It was, but going to these Hollywood parties, you'd be there, and Brad Pitt would be there, or, you name it. And it's just like, I've been at parties with like 20 people are there, okay? The most A-list there are. Totally empty, felt like my soul was being sucked out, and always couldn't wait to get out. And didn't matter how beautiful the women were. I was married, too. I didn't want them. And the last time I was at one of these people's houses about 3 years ago, and ash was raining down by the pool as a woman in a bikini brought me some hors d'oeuvres. And I said, there was fires nearby. I said, I got to get out of here. When I flew in last time to L.A., I've been there a few times on things, but the last time to go to somebody's house, there was fires everywhere. As I look out the window, just burning like hell. And the reason I diss Hollywood is because people literally, you see women in the checkout line with People magazine, oh, the lives they have, oh, it's so great. A woman that's a waitress with a husband that's a construction worker that goes fishing on the weekend and goes camping and goes on hikes and goes to baseball games is more fulfilled and happy than the Hollywood people. And all I'm telling you is what the New World Order has to offer isn't anything. It's horrible. All the Hollywood people have evacuated to Canada or to Texas or to Tennessee or to the middle of nowhere. They're leaving. They're all leaving to New Zealand, not to do production, to just get away. Get away, get away, get away. And so when you see the merger in the 20s and 30s of Hollywood by the father of propaganda here in this country, Edward Bernays, he said we're going to fuse politicians with Hollywood and with theater to make them all celebrities so everyone worships them like untouchables. That's all they've done. It's a total illusion of peer pressure. It's totally empty, and I wish older people, and also younger, but it's a minority of young people and older people, but that's the two susceptible groups, on average, that are just still enamored. It's like when you're young, you're enamored by celebrity, but you grow out of it. So they're the worst. But old people that are still into celebrity, you know, let's watch the Oscars. Is this a joke? A bunch of peacocks in fancy outfits? It's ridiculous is what I'm saying to you. And so this is the fall of all these peacocks. David Knight, tell us what you got coming up today, my friend.
Well, Alex, we're going to take a look at what's going on with the electors. We're also going to look in detail at this organization, the Poynter Institute, which says that they're part of the International Fact-Checking Network. The Poynter Institute,
Snopes is part of that.
Yeah, well, no, Snopes is different, but Snopes and
I'm saying Snopes is part of the Snopes. I'm not correcting you. I just want to be clear. Snopes is part of the consortium that Facebook's going to use.
Exactly. Those are the two people, the primary groups that they're going to have vet everything. And as you were talking about Snopes, you know, a man and his wife on the couch with a cat, you know, doing this. The Poynter Institute has a faculty of 6 people. It's a mail order institute. They have online seminars that they do, and these are the people, not the Columbia School
There's
of
your headline, mail order diploma group with an office of 6 people, probably, you know, above a Chinese restaurant somewhere. It's going, you know, meanwhile, behind the innocent bookstore facade. A great point. In fact, I knew it was a tiny group. I didn't know it was a mail order deal. Can I order a doctorate from there?
You probably can. I don't know if they even have degrees, Alex. They do online seminars and other things like that. So, yeah, this is how did they get picked? Well, the answer is that they're Soros financed, okay? So they've got some connections to Soros and to Pierre Midyar and these other institutes. We're going to look at that. We're also going to look at this faithless elector, Chris Suprin. It now turns out it looks like he has stolen valor. He's not even a 9/11 fireman, as he's
Well, we know they had Democrats infiltrate this so they could set this thing up the whole time. What a group of venomous vermin. We'll be back with David Knight.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. Alex is going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. It's Johnny Cash, and he's talking about the train a coming. It's the Trump train. It's already here, folks. And I have to say, as we look at this phony narrative, you know, we've seen a long-term strategy going back and made it pretty clear about 3 years ago when they repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which prohibited our government from getting involved in propagandizing its own citizens. And, of course, that was a prohibition that was part of the creation of Voice of America, Radio Free Europe. They created this organization to propagandize Eastern European companies as well as Russia. They said, you're not going to do that here in America. It's only going to be foreign. Remember, we've heard that before, you know, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which is going to limit the NSA and the CIA only to spying abroad. And then we find out that they use that very act to justify spying on all American citizens, getting a Mr. and Mrs. Verizon search warrant. If you can claim that it's a search warrant, if you can even claim that it's a court. It's a single judge with no opposition. The government just comes in and the judge gives them a rubber stamp to do whatever they want. So they use this very thing that was designed to constrain them as a means of usurping power and to do the exact opposite of what they were supposed to do. Kind of like the Constitution itself. You know, the Constitution itself, especially the Bill of Rights, was set there to constrain government, and yet now they have used they've turned that upside down and inverted it. So we knew this strategy was coming. We've seen this being developed. We had Drudge warn us about that. I believe, however, that this tactic, this fake news tactic, was also predetermined even before the election, because we see that this summer they were already putting together a bipartisan bill to do this very thing, to fund this through the State Department, turning it into an Orwellian Ministry of Truth, $160 million funding. I don't think they ever changed from that tactic, even though, in light of what we learned with the leaks from WikiLeaks, from the DNC hacks. We learned how duplicitous these people were. We learned about how they were colluding with Hillary Clinton. And in spite of all of that, they decided that they were going to try to portray the people who were telling the truth about Hillary Clinton. That's why she lost, folks. They're not saying that the Russians sit over an army of fake voters disguised as Americans voting in our elections. No, they didn't say that. It wasn't voter fraud. They're not saying that they hacked into our election machines, even though they use the word hack. They're not alleging that there was any hacking of our election machines. They're not alleging that there was any hacking of the vote totals. No, they say that the election was hacked because somebody, whoever it was, Russians or otherwise, told us the truth about Hillary, told us the truth about the Democrats, told us the truth about the mainstream media. And so they never abandoned this tactic, and it's become absolutely absurd. Now, I want to take a look at this whole push by Facebook. Remember, it was Snopes, and we all know who Snopes is, but the other partner in this that Facebook has pulled up is the Poynter Institute, the International Fact-Checking Network. Boy, that sounds very impressive, doesn't it? Where does that come from? Well, that's something they created, this place called the Poynter Institute. And this is an organization that has a faculty of 6. It's got one small building in St. Petersburg, Florida. And if you look at their website, what we do, they say we teach in seminar rooms in our main campus. You want to call that a campus? It's a single building in St. Petersburg. And we teach online, okay? And I don't even think it's an online degree mill because I don't know they offer any degrees. They just offer seminars. So how do these people get involved? Well, as Breitbart pointed out, it's because they're being financed by Soros. The International Fact-Checking Network, billed as a third-party fact-checking organization that is going to tell you, they're going to be the final arbiter of truth, and they're going to tell you what's true or not. And Facebook is actually going to label stories as being fake or not based on these people. And they've got a faculty of 6. They're going to be pretty busy looking at all the news in the world. They got 6 people at the Poynter Institute, 2 people at Snopes, and they're going to validate the authenticity of all news, folks, for us. They're going to be very, very busy people. But the Poynter Institute and the IFCN, this International Fact-Checking Network, so-called, is openly funded, according to Breitbart, by Soros's Open Society Foundation, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Google, the National Endowment for Democracy, the Pierre Omidyar Network, okay, which has also partnered with Open Society, George Soros's organization, on numerous projects. It's given grants to third parties using the Soros-funded Tides Foundation, the largest donor to left-wing causes in the United States. Another significant contributor to them is the left-wing billionaire Craig Newmark, the founder of the Craigslist business. Now, I want to take a quick look at the code of principles that has been put out by this overinflated international fact-checking network coming out of an institution of 6 people. The very first thing they say is a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness. Let me tell you something. There's 2 kinds of news organizations. Those that admit their bias and those that hide their bias, okay? Everybody's got a bias, and if you don't admit it, if you're not aware of it, stay away from people like that. And the very first one on the list is ABC News. And then the end of the list is Washington Post.
All right, I am not going to sit here and beat a dead horse over and over again. But I want to thank all the listeners and viewers for what you've done in 2016. You have changed the world. We should all be very, very positive about what's happened. Globalism, centralized systems, the current elite we've had is a very, very nasty anti-human elite. Really the 4th generation eugenicist is in serious decline because they lied about globalism. They lied about what it would do. They've delivered racism, division, tyranny, anti-family, anti-human garbage. That said, they're down, but they're not out. We are turning the tide. Inexorably, you see they will fall. We'll have other challenges, obviously. There's no utopia here. But history's being made, but vigilance is key. Notice they launched this attempt to overthrow the election once we got near Christmas, and then people are going to sleep. They're going to try to ram through a bunch of bills on or before Christmas, like they always do. Maybe New Year's Eve, like the first NDAA that Obama did that allowed the secret arrest of citizens. But just because it allows that doesn't mean it's constitutional. We're going to put up with it. So a lot's happening. We've got to keep Trump honest as well. But the fact that we're forcing them to come out and declare INFOWAR against a free press is really incredibly positive. A lot of people go, man, you ought to be scared. I haven't done the things they're saying. I know that they're trying to demonize me, but only the weakest-minded people are going to believe it. Lee Rockwell has a great article up on INFOWARS.com. Understanding the Trump phenomenon. The discomfort and horror of the elites is something to cheer. Exactly. They're scared because they know. Report. He was just mentioning it, David Knight. Faithless elector lied about being a 9/11 first responder. Republican elector claims coup d'etat attempt to overturn fair and legal election. You say that, and then Pelosi screams, Alex wants to kill me. Never said that. That's how they play the victim card. It's a lie. It's a hoax. Just like Megyn Kelly airing that tape. Now, we've got an edited version now. By edited, we didn't cut anything out. It has all her clips, her lies, from like a 9-minute piece cut down. But it's her saying that I said one thing, and then we show the clip where I said something else. They took a story about Syria and injected it into Pizzagate, saying I said she was chopping up and killing and raping kids in the United States, not funding the radical jihadis to do it. That is criminal fraud against the American people because they're pushing to end the First Amendment. It's racketeering. Jihad in Germany, 12-year-old Islamicist twice attempts bombing of Christian market. It's okay, they're going to let him do it over and over again. This is what they're doing, and now Trump comes out in this, in the middle of all this, just laughs at them. They can't stand it. Video. Member of Parliament tells EU bureaucrats they're responsible for migrant rapes. Freak out ensues. WikiLeaks founder. I want to play this clip and go back to David Knight. Julian Assange to media. You are increasingly not very important. With every day, they've got to run bigger and bigger hoaxes, and they get less and less of an effect. It's like a heroin head that started out with some tiny amount. I don't know what they take, but I know it's a smaller dose up front. And then by the end, they've got to take such giant dosages, they start having overdoses because the old dose doesn't work anymore. And now, I mean, what happens when people learn? I didn't say Hillary was chopping people up in the basement of a pizza place. What's going to happen when they get the full clip? Because the media isn't just lying in a vacuum now. We're here, you're here. And it's not just me. They do it constantly. Speaking of that, let's go to this Assange clip. Here it is.
I think this is very important for our audience to fully, completely grasp and to understand. So you only had 3 pages on the RNC. Do you think the media in the U.S. is trying to scapegoat you, and what message do you have for them? That, in fact, the Russians...
they're increasingly not very important.
So true.
I think Trump has even made this statement. I mean, they're a paper tiger in this election, and the new publications on the internet, one can get pretty directly to the people. So this old press are less important, and the degree of bias they've been showing during the electoral process, and it has come from both sides, but I suppose particularly the liberal press, readers see that. They feel it. They don't like being lectured to or told what to do, and they rebel against it. I think this is the other reason why Trump won that no one's speaking about, which is that kind of hectoring from the liberal media in the United States, and the type of advertising that Hillary Clinton was putting out really turned people off, because it seemed like those people who already had a lot of social power were telling you what to do, and so you wanted to do the opposite.
How?
That's right. I'm gonna hand the baton to David Knight and then get ready to tape some stuff for the Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock, and a lot of special reports over the weekend, because it's exciting to be part of this animating contest of liberty. It's exciting to let these rats know when they put out lies, we can counter them. But briefly, again, thank you for your support, your prayers. We're running the biggest specials we ever run. We do more specials than we used to because folks like it. Our products are already not overpriced. These are really good deals. Not like we raise the price and then lower it and say it's a sale. That's why Black Friday is one of the worst times to shop. On average, they've done big actuaries because big corporations just raise the price the week before, then lower it to the regular price the week of Black Friday. When we have a Black Friday, we really slash prices. Well, the same thing here. 50% off colloidal silver, $9.95. The same stuff's $19 to $24 at Whole Foods. We private label it Silver Bullet. And it just goes from there. 30% off Living Defense. Everything's 30 to 50% off. The lowest discount's 25%. And we're about to sell out a lot of this. The Super Blue, first toothpaste with colloidal silver and true atomic iodine, nascent iodine, amazing peppermint, tea tree oil, and more, developed and produced by the biggest organic toothpaste producer in the country and private label for InfoWars.com, according to our recipe. And boy, it is selling out as we speak. So thank you all for your support. But I always miscalculate. I wish I'd have produced more because then we could actually fund the operation just off that. But tell me what you think of it. Give it a review. I want to thank you all for your support. InfoWarsStore.com, the water filters, the books, the films, the Patriot apparel. Trump is my president, again, is only available in a few sizes now. Limited edition Hillary for President 2017 with George Soros as a goblin. It says deport Soros. And then InfoWars.com on the right shoulder. All of this is a way to meet like-minded people, spread the word, defend the First Amendment. We're in a fight for our lives, but we're beginning to turn the tide. So again, I want to thank Drudge Report this year for leading the charge against the globalist. I want to thank you, the listeners. I want to thank our affiliates, the great crew here, folks like John Harmon and Scott up there at GCN, and my parents and family for putting up with all the attacks and the rest of it. My children, just everybody. It's been amazing. I'm still going to be here this Sunday, and I think I'm hosting all the way through. I think Thursday of next week, I'm going to take my son hunting and hang out with my daughters and want to go camping. But I'm going to be here. And then right through after New Year's, I'm going to be here next week. I am going to be going on a little trip, little investigative journalism piece I'm going to do for a few days, but that's not going to be announced quite yet. Anyways, let's just say it'll make the mainstream media jealous. And then there's just so much more coming up here towards the end of the year. We don't just go to sleep and hibernate while the globalists are trying to rape us during the night. That's when we have the watchmen and watch ladies on the wall. So handing the baton back to David Knight in a studio about 50 feet from me, right here on the InfoWars News Center in Austin, Texas.
Thank you, Alex. You know, you're playing that clip of Julian Assange. I was glad to hear that live interview with Sean Hannity because it lets us know that he's okay. It's just amazing. Well, he's okay. He's alive, okay? He's still under house arrest now for years.
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm famous for this, but people keep saying we're conspiracy theorists when he hadn't been heard for 45 days a few weeks ago. Then he came out, finally did an interview, but he's admittedly under house arrest. They're not letting him do more and more interviews. It's the pressure that allows him to get a few of these out. They are beginning to hope people forget about him. His own people 30-something days ago said, we don't even know if he's still in there either. Okay, so that's WikiLeaks saying that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was our concern that we put that out there. We weren't trying to undermine him in any way. We were trying to help defend him. I mean, we have to watch each other's backs. One of the other things that he said in that interview was that this attempt by these electors to try to overthrow this election, he said, of course, it's going to fail. But he said it sets a very dangerous precedent, and all this talk about this sets a very dangerous precedent for the future where people could try to overthrow the elections in America. And we have to understand that that's really what is at the bottom of this. And I want to talk about this faithless elector issue. I want to go back to that. But I want to finish up because I ran out of time at the in the last segment when I was talking about the Poynter Institute, because I think it's very, very interesting to take a look at their code of principles. They put out 5 principles, which are all commitments that they're talking about. And when you look at the organizations that they have had here, that they list at the bottom of this article, there's 43 organizations, almost all of them foreign. There's a few of them in the United States, only about 5 or 6 of them here in the United States. And I want you to, we'll talk about these organizations, but keep this in mind as we talk about these organizations. First of all, a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness. And as I said, as we're going to the break, the very first one on the list was ABC News. I thought, nonpartisanship and fairness, ABC News. Remember when they were pushing Obamacare at the White House and ABC News hung out there for a week? And you couldn't even, and the Republican Party said, we want to get some equal time here. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. Well, we want to buy equal time. No, we're not even going to sell you any equal time. And then, of course, George Stephanopoulos, who was joined at the hip with the Clintons, is living there. Then you've also got climate feedback, okay? No, they're not partisan about anything. No agenda there with an organization called Climate Feedback. They're going to vet all the information about whether or not there's, man-made global warming. So they're going to label anything that opposes their agenda as false. And then, of course, we also have Snopes and then the Washington Post. How does that work out? A commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness. And these people at the Poynter Institute, are they checking these organizations that sign up to their code of principles? I mean, it was the Washington Post where you had Bob Woodward bragging back in May, saying he had assigned a team of 20 reporters to investigate Donald Trump. He said, we're going to do a book. we're going to look into every phase of his life. And they made some stuff up about Donald Trump, nothing significant. And, of course, it was made up. It was easily dismissed and a fact-checking organization. But compare that to Hillary Clinton, okay? Releasing true information about Hillary Clinton is called hacking the election. Well, if that's true, then isn't the Washington Post and Bob Woodward guilty of hacking the election, or at least attempting to hack the election because they're trying to find dirt on Donald Trump? When people found dirt on Hillary Clinton and they made it public, that's called hacking the election. And, of course, we've seen all of these same people in these very emails colluding with the Clintons, colluding with the Democrat Party behind the scenes to shut down our election. Then they say a commitment to transparency of sources. Well, maybe the Poynter Institute should point out that they are funded by George Soros, Melinda Gates organization, all these billionaires who are leading the attack on free speech. And, of course, this, as I pointed out, is just a quote-unquote institute with 6 faculty members that does online seminars. They're the ones who are going to label everything as true or false. Transparency of funding, transparency of your organization, and a commitment to open and honest corrections. Well, how about this? We now have Chris Supran, who is this faithless elector, made a big point of the fact that he's not going to vote for Donald Trump. He's an elector here in Texas. He was put forward by the New York Times and a lot of other media organizations. He wrote an editorial for the New York Times. He started out by saying, 15 years ago, I was a firefighter. I was part of the response to the September 11 attacks on our nation. Now we find out that's not exactly true. You know who found this out, who vetted this? Wasn't any of these national news organizations? Of course not. No. The New York Times didn't vet this guy before they gave him an editorial license here at their newspaper, featured his editorial piece, and it was an absurd piece, actually. One of the first things he says, he attacked Donald Trump's character. He says, Mr. Trump goes out of his way to attack the cast of Saturday Night Live for bias. Well, yeah, they are biased. He tweeted that out. How dare Donald Trump expose the bias of Saturday Night Live? How dare anyone expose the crimes and the lying and the collusion of Hillary Clinton and the media? Okay, that's hacking the election. And if you talk about how Saturday Night Live does that, he says this is unacceptable. Unacceptable. So I'm going to follow Alexander Hamilton, he says, in the Constitution, and I'm not going to do this. Well, I did a report on this on Wednesday because I tried to reach out to him. On Monday, I tried to reach out to him, to the people who represent him in the media, megaphone strategies. They said, yeah, no megaphone there. They've turned off the switch, and they are hiding in the closet. They don't want to talk to anybody. They never would respond to me. And as a matter of fact, they wouldn't respond really to WFAA, who did this investigation with a W call letter. I believe they went back to Virginia. They said in a heavily publicized editorial this month for the New York Times, he said that he was a 9/11 firefighter. Well, they went through and they talked to the people there in Virginia. Said, was this guy there? Well, they said he claimed to be a first responder with the Manassas Park Fire Department on September 11, 2001, and personally told us stories saying, I was fighting fire that day at the Pentagon. No, I was on a medic unit that day at the Pentagon, and you make a phone call to Manassas Park, and you'll find out he wasn't even employed there until October 2001, said a first responder who knew him. So they called him, and they found out from the city of Manassas that he was hired on October 10th, 2001, 1 month after the September 11th attacks in 2001. The fire chief then added his department didn't even go to the Pentagon. So Chris Supran, who was part of a fire department in Virginia that never went to 9/11, said that he was a first responder, but he didn't even join that organization until a month after 9/11. And as one of the first responders who knows him said, it's no different than stolen valor for the military. If you dress up in a uniform, and he's still dressing up in his uniform and putting his picture out there, if you dress up and say, hey, I earned Purple Heart when you weren't even in combat, he said there's a big difference between shopping at Old Navy and being a Navy SEAL. He also, they report in this investigation by WFAA, that he claims to currently be a paramedic with Freedom EMS in Dallas, but records from the Texas Department of State Health Services indicates that there is no such company. A firm with that name used to exist in Houston, but it went out of business in 2008. A turns out that federal court records also show that he spent the last 5 years in bankruptcy while his resume says that he was working. And then WFAA says he never responded to multiple emails from WFAA and calls to his telephone go to a recording which says his voicemail is full. Same thing I got when I tried to contact him. As a matter of fact, same thing I got when I tried to talk to these never-Trumpers who said they were going to take over the RNC, the Republican National Convention, and they were going to make sure that Donald Trump didn't get elected. See, that's the problem that we have. These are not Hamilton electors. As a matter of fact, I've got a clip that is actually some closed breaking footage here that we've got of some Hamilton electors that are meeting. Do you guys have that ready? I'd like to play that clip. No, we don't have that ready. Okay, so we'll play that for you after the break. We're getting ready to go to the break, so we're going to play you some breaking footage from a meeting of the Hamilton electors when we come back. So stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. In this last segment, I wanted to finish up on what we're talking about, these faithless electors, because we have the Electoral College. It's going to be on Monday. And we had an article on InfoWars from Paul Joseph Watson earlier today showing some of the tweets from a Iowa elector. This guy is a doctor. He says, I'm getting inundated at my office with all this literature berating me, telling me not to vote for Donald Trump. And he goes, I'm going to keep my word. And he goes, I don't have the time and the money to handle all these requests that I'm being inundated with at the office. He goes, who's paying for this? Well, I'll give you one guess. It's probably George Soros, if you go back and follow the money on this. I did a report on Wednesday, as I said. I tried to contact this guy, Chris Supran. I was going to be fair with him. I wasn't aware of the fact that he was a stolen valor firefighter, that he really didn't even join the fire department until a month after 9/11. I was aware of the fact that he had set up a 9/11 charity, and he was also involved in the Ashley Madison hacks, and the address that was there went to his 9/11 charity. I wasn't going to question his integrity like he did Donald Trump. So I was going to be fair with him. I told him I would stick to the issue, which is the Hamilton electors. The idea that we now have these progressive lefties who have always despised the written Constitution, written law, said, oh, we got a living Constitution. All that does is give free license to judges to just decree whatever they want, to act as little dictators, because that's the definition of a dictator. A dictator dictates the law. The law is in their mouth. So you're taking dictation from them, right? It's not something that's written in a representative republic. It's just simply whatever the judges want to say. So that's what they want to have. They want to have a living Constitution. Yet now these people are appealing to Hamilton because evidently of that phony play where they wouldn't allow anybody to, they specifically said, don't apply if you're white to be a founding father. Only person that could be white would be the villain, the king. So it's a phony representation of a phony play that they're trying to channel here. But here's the reality for these people. And as I pointed this out on Wednesday, I did a report on this. We call it's up as Faithless Federalists, Why Hamilton Electors May Face Prosecution. And go into more detail, we'll have to go in right now. But the bottom line is that there's 29 states where these people, if they listen to Hollywood, if they listen to George Soros, and if they become faithless electors, certain things are going to happen to them. As I point out here in Texas, and this was a 1952 Supreme Court decision that gave control of the choosing of electors and running of elections to the states. And the state here in Texas says that the parties can choose them and have them sign an affidavit and so forth. And they do. Both the Republican and Democrat Party, you sign an affidavit saying that you will abide by the will of the voters. And that's what they're saying they're not going to do. Now, if he goes against his signed affidavit, that exposes him to charges of perjury. It exposes him to charges of election fraud. In other states, like North Carolina, where there's also many articles about electors getting inundated by requests telling them to go against their signed statement, go against the voters, there they'll get a $500 fine and they'll be immediately replaced. See, the question is, who chose these people? And if you go back to what Hamilton said, they were to be chosen by the people in each state. It doesn't say by a faction in each state. As a matter of fact, what he said was, we want an electoral college because we want to separate this from political cabals, from political factions. We don't want to have intrigue. We don't want to foment disorder, which is precisely what they're doing. and you see the people who are running this, people like Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Christine Pelosi, that is precisely what we do have, because we're allowing these people to be selected by a political party. We need to have the Electoral College. We need to have the federalism that it represents, the firewall against corruption and concentration of power, but we don't need these people. That's it for today's broadcast. Join us tonight for the InfoWars Nightly News, 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm David Knight.